As late arrivals continue to file through the turnstiles, another major story here involves the man who sits on the pole for the third straight year. That man is Ken Schrader in the Rick Hendrick Chevrolet. But it's more than just sitting on the pole. And for more on that story, let's go to Mike Joy.
Well, Ken, 7 times this race has been won from the pole, but the furthest back it's been won from is 33rd spot. And Kenny Schrader qualified on the pole, but because now you're in a backup car on that second pace lap, you'll have to go all the way to the back of the field. How do you intend to get right back up here in front and win this thing?
I don't know if it's going to be getting right back up here. We don't care about getting right back up here. We just want to get up here before this thing's over, and we got enough time to get that done.
Now, you're an aggressive driver. Is it going to be tough to conserve the equipment, take your time, pace yourself?
I don't always do that so good, but, you know, if there's a place you can really run hard, it's right here at Daytona Beach. So I think we'll be able to get through the thing pretty good.
Kenny, good luck today. There's another story involving some cars that'll start this race at the back of the field. Let's go topside to Ken Squire.
Well, this year's 500 is a little different. It's more than a race. It's a setting for a new motion picture from the makers of Top Gun. Days of Thunder, starring Tom Cruise right here as a NASCAR driver, is adding some $2,000 to the purse for each Daytona 500 starter. Most drivers like the idea of the Top Gun image, but there are others who hold that movie making shouldn't be on their biggest day of thunder, the Daytona 500. There you see some of the footage that was being shot the other day with Tom Cruise here. Now, there are 2 camera cars that will start in the back of the field, both driven by veteran drivers. Number 18 is Tommy Ellis, the Grand National champion, and 51 is Bobby Hamilton, who's a terrific Grand National driver out of Nashville, Tennessee. They're going to run 100 miles and then pull off. Let's go down and find out more about this story from David Hobbs.
Bobby, a lot of the drivers aren't sure that you should be out there with them. How do you feel about joining into racing Super Bowl and just playing all day?
You know, what they're doing here is going to benefit the sport in the long run. So we've had meetings after meetings. We're going to do everything to make everybody the same. So I think after turns out, they'll see
Now, you're a good race driver. When you see that green flag, are you going to get tempted to say, I'll just have a go for a couple of laps here?
We're here to make a movie, and as soon as we get what we need, you know, Tom Ellis and I are going to run back here and stay with each other, stand everybody's way we're going to go out.
Well, in Hollywood, they say break a leg, but we don't want you doing that today. And from the Hollywood end of the grid, we're going to go away here for just 1 minute. But don't you go away, because when we come back, we're going to hear the most anticipated words in motor racing. Gentlemen, start your engine.
42 racing cars in readiness for the command to start the Daytona 500.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, for those most famous words in motorsports, Senator George Mitchell.
Gentlemen, start your engines.
The starting lineup for the 1990 Daytona 500. On the pole for the 3rd straight year, Ken Schrader, and alongside, trying for his first 500 win, Dale Earnhardt. Ken Schrader, he's the kind of guy that will race anytime, anywhere, including those tough little bullpens where anything goes when the green flag drops. Qualifying 3rd, Jeff Bodine, the 86 winner, and 2-time champion Bill Elliott outside. Row 3 is Harry Gant and rookie 500 driver Jimmy Spencer. In row 4, it's Mark Martin from Arkansas and Phil Parsons. In row 5, Darrell Waltrip, defending champion, and Bobby Hillin. Darrell Waltrip, he's proud these days of the new priorities in his life.
I guess you'd say, what can make me feel this way, Jessica? me a kiss.
Making his 30th start, 7-time winner Richard Petty, alongside from the Northwest Derek Cope. In row 7, it's A.J. Foyt, the 72 champ, and Mississippi's Lake Speed. Row 8 is Mike Alexander in the Bobby Allison team car, and Davey Allison. Row 9 is Butch Miller and Irby Irvan from California. In row 10, it's Ricky Rudd and Terry Labonte, second here in '86. Row 11 is Sterling Marlin and Kyle Petty. Kyle Petty, in number 42 car, has given up a singing career to focus on racing only this year, but he still could sing a good song. Row 12 is the rookie Jack Pennington and Michael Waltrip from Kentucky. Row 13, Wisconsin's Alan Kowicki and Larry Pearson. In row 14, Joe Ruttman and Florida's Rick Wilson with a new team. Row 15 is an outstanding rookie, Rich Bickle and Morgan Shepherd. Row 16, Neil Bonnet from Alabama and Dick Trickle out of Wisconsin Rapids, Wisconsin. Row 17 is Brett Bodine and Hut Strickland. Row 18, Arizona's Phil Markdahl and the 21-year-old rookie Robbie Moroso from Connecticut. Row 19, Jimmy Means out of Alabama and defending Winston Cup champion Rusty Wallace. Rusty Wallace, he'll cinch up the seatbelt on anything that goes fast. That's him. For row number 20, rookie Jerry O'Neill from Auburn, New York, and Jimmy Horton, winner of the ARCA 200 last Sunday. Row 21 is Eddie Bierswell and Dave Marcus in his 23rd Daytona 500 start. And then there's the crew from Days of Thunder. All the way in the rear, 2 cars for Nashville's Bobby Hamilton and the 2-time Grand National champion Tommy Ellis. And as the field completes its first preliminary lap, we pause to remember a driver who wanted to make his 68th Winston Cup start. Slick Johnson, who lost his life here at Daytona, injuries sustained in the ARCA 200 last Sunday. He may have never won here. He'd only run this race twice in '80 and '85, finishing in 14th and 20th. But he will always be remembered as a champion at Myrtle Beach and Timmonsville. We'll miss Slick Johnson. One lap to green, and the great American race will pour it on into turn number 1 as they'll escalate speeds to over 195 miles per hour. And there you see the pole sitter, Schrader, falling back all the way to the rear for the start.
What do you think about the emotions Ken Schrader feels now? The fastest car 3 years running, wrecks and crashes, and now he's starting at the wrong end of the track. You wonder if this will affect his performance today.
Well, they only locked about a quarter of a mile getting to the start-finish line in that 125-mile qualifying races, but didn't quite make it.
We have in-car cameras out here, including car number 11, Jeff Bodine, getting set for the start. He now appropriates the point for the start. Jeff Bodine, Ken Squire at CBS Central. Do you read us?
Hi, Ken. Hi, everybody out there watching. It's a pretty nice view up here. No one's at...
Okay, good luck to you this afternoon, Jeff. 86 winner, now driving for Junior Johnson. Mark Martin in that Roush Ford, serious contender. He's been here 5 previous times, had trouble finishing. He's ready to go. And that Arkansas handle on the steering wheel, you'll see that a bit later this afternoon. You're watching these pictures live. Here's car number 27 out and back, the Pontiac of Rusty Wallace. Wallace attempting to come up through the field, the Winston Cup champion, and win the race for the first time. Settling down for a start. 32nd annual 500 as 94,000 in the grandstand rise to send them off with a Daytona ovation. Let's listen. 25, busting through traffic. Marcus in the 71 at the bottom. From the back of the field around Jimmy Means.
It was expected that he'd maybe clip off 8 or 10 cars on this first lap. He has a lot of horsepower into that Chevrolet, but he'll have to drive carefully so as to not get in trouble.
Out in front, it is Bodine from the point. Earnhardt lies second. They just moved that inside row up.
And
From Mark Martin's picture, right in front of him is Phil Parsons, and down to his left is Waltrip.
Well, we've talked to Dale Earnhardt this morning. It had rained last night, and when we woke up this morning, it was still raining. This track is different from when they practiced late yesterday afternoon. It'll be interesting to see who has made the right chassis adjustments on their cars for this somewhat green racetrack.
Meantime, Ken Schrader has passed 7 cars trying to get back to the front.
Mark Martin, watch that Arkansas handle when he comes down through. Look at them, 4 wide in the back straightaway. This is live. It's the 32nd annual Daytona 500. Waltrip on the bottom of the racetrack, dusting off 3 as he pulls himself into 5th position. Fades high, almost touches.
Very close in the corners there.
Normally, you don't see Darrell Waltrip that aggressive this early in the race, but he made a tremendous move.
Around Jimmy Spencer. 2 laps down. The man in black, Earnhardt, now asserts the Chevrolet, puts it in front, 4 drops to second.
Waltrip's out of the draft there. He's down low. He wants to get in line to stay with him. We'll see what happens.
And for the fans that might not know what drafting is, 2 cars running close together, nose to tail, can run faster than 1 car running by itself. And in Waltrip's case, where he's down on the inside, he doesn't have anyone in front of him, and he needs someone to come up closely behind him to get going again. Here's Ken Schrader. He's in car number 25. He's not having too much problem getting through.
Going up underneath, Rusty Wallace. Robbie Moroso on the outside in the blue car just in front of him. Alan Kowicki in that group. Meanwhile, the leader, Earnhardt.
Schrader is up to 31st position. That means he's passed 10 cars.
From Darrell Waltrip's view, pulls up behind Bobby Hillin, and watch them live sliding through here. That's Mark Martin, number 6 on the outside. Inches apart at 190 miles an hour plus.
This is what Darrell Waltrip needed, was for another car to come out in the low groove so he can do some drafting. Bobby Hillin pulled out there, but now it looks like Waltrip wanted to go on the outside, but there wasn't room out there.
Isn't there a rule about driving at least a car length back for every 10 miles an hour?
Well, not on the speedways, or at least they forget it when they buckle
Get
up.
a tailgating ticket.
About 1/10 of an inch off Bobby Hillin's rear bumper. You saw Waltrip. Look at this magnificent shot from the blimp as the 42 pour it on. There's 83, Lake Speed's car right there with Darrell Waltrip in the 17. Well back. They're running side by side after those cars in single order. Back on the 31-degree banking. Up on the wall.
But Darrell Waltrip is going backwards. He's losing positions down on the inside. He just simply cannot get any help in the drafting.
As he did a year ago when he went on to win this race. He backed up for the first 100 miles.
Another driver not doing too well is Richard Petty. He started 11th. He's back to 17th.
Here's one they're nervous about. Jimmy Spencer right in front of Waltrip in the 57. They call him Mr. Excitement. Spencer's trying to change his image, but he's one that gets physical everywhere. Now, here comes Schrader down to the bottom. The 21-year-old rookie, Moroso, youngest driver in the race, number 20 on the high side, and just in front of him is Larry Pearson in the 16 car. The 25, the white and green on the bottom, is Schrader, and he is ripping through this field.
And he's catching up to some cars now that are very fast race cars. We saw Alan Kowicki in the car number 7 directly in front of him. Those are good fast race cars, so he can draft with them and work on towards the front.
And he could not linger. He had to go early here. He had to get up with that lead group. Let's go to Mike Joy.
Ned's point early about the surface of the track is well taken. Oil and water and grease and rubber has gotten on this track all week from the racing, and the tires don't adhere. They slide along the surface of the racetrack. The rain last night washed all that off. The track is dry and the rubber gets a good grip. You have to change the car's chassis and tire setup to compensate for that, or you may need this eraser later on. Let's go down to Dave Despain.
Despite the rain last night, Mike, most of the top teams say they made only minor adjustments this morning to accommodate the rain. They've been fighting a slick track all week, and they think it'll be slick within, some say 20, some say 50 laps, certainly for the second half of the race. The only team that made a lot of major changes this morning, Junior Johnson's outfit here. Junior wasn't happy with the horsepower after the Busch clash, went back to Ingle Hollow and kept the folks in the Hollow awake a couple of nights with the dynamometer running wide open. Came back down here. They blew 2 engines yesterday and had to change in an early morning thrash at 5 o'clock today. Let's get back to the action topside with Ken Squire.
Here they are. Side by side. That's Ricky Rudd in the yellow and white car that used to be Bodine's car on the outside. And the car that I'm really interested in now is Davey Allison, who's come from 16th up to what, Chris? 5th?
He's up to 6th place.
Now he's just taken another. He's into 5th. There he is.
Derek Cope has come from 12th up to run with him there in the 5th place.
Derek Cope, a tremendous racer out of Spanaway, Washington. Here you see him, the red and white number 10, right behind the black car of Davey Allison. That Ford is humming. But it is a Chevrolet that leads the assemblage, going down that long back straightaway at over 194, 95 in there, Ned?
Yes, in fact, they're turning laps now in the low 190-mile-an-hour bracket, so they are running close to 197 or 88. Here's Ken Schrader and Richard Petty side by side.
And Terry Labonte just in front of the one car.
And they've caught Darrell Waltrip, Terry Labonte, in a new ride this year, the Jackson Brothers Oldsmobile car number 1.
Right there, Schrader's alongside of Waltrip. Their car was run by the same man, and he blew it right off.
Look at Petty run. Richard Petty on the high side where he likes to run.
He likes to run high, but Ken, if it had not rained last night, Richard Petty would be closer to the front right now than he is.
Why?
As this track gets slicker, he will be more of a force. He sets his car up for a hot, slick racetrack, and it'll get that way as we go on later on this afternoon. The sun is shining here, the temperature will go up, and as oil and water and grease is put down, the track will get slicker.
He's fallen back to 22nd position from his starting slot.
Dale Earnhardt leads in his Chevrolet, and 3 Fords follow. Jeff Bodine, Bill Elliott, and Mark Martin.
Davey Allison in 5th, Derek Cope 6th, Bobby Hill in 7th, Ricky Rudd is 8th. It is Jimmy Means in 9th, and Phil Parsons runs 10th in the Great American Race. Live at Daytona, coming around to complete 12 laps on the 2.5-mile track from Jeff Bodine's bumper view. You see that Bill Elliott has just pulled around Bodine. He has moved into that second spot. Earnhardt in the black car up in front. And Ken Schrader, who was on the pole in qualifying, then crashed a car in the 125-mile qualifying race, which was really a shakedown for him. But because he had to go to a second car, he was relegated to the rear of the field. If you have to change cars, you have to go out back. And here he is fighting his way beneath A.J. Foyt in car number 14, the Oldsmobile on the high side. And Schrader and Petty are now locked up as they continue to fight their way through the field. That's up into the 17th position.
Petty had fallen to 22nd position. Now he's creeping back, and he's bringing Kenny Schrader with him.
Pontiac and Chevy in your picture here, the leaders. Turn 1. Bill Elliott asserting himself today. Looking very strong. New crew chief, Mike Beam.
Dale Earnhardt is lapping this racetrack in front at over 190 miles an hour. Last lap speed 190.1.
That's a pretty quick pace for racing conditions.
To Mike Joy.
Ken, Darrell Waltrip has dropped well back. He's running a second off the pace. What's the problem, Jeff Hammond?
Mike, what happened was we had a little bit of a vibration right there at the start of the race. We were up there amongst all those guys. You can see they got a pretty good-sized pack going on there. So I told him, Darrell, you better get out of there until we figure out what it is. You know, we didn't know if it was something in the drivetrain or if a tire going bad or what it was, so we just tried to get out of everybody's way, and when we did, we lost the draft a little bit. He said it felt like it went away. I don't know if we just had a tire a little bit out of the way or whatever, but it's got...
Trouble out here on the corner. Mike Alexander running slowly on the bottom of the racetrack. Field into the back straightaway. Car number 12 off the pace. That is the Allison car.
There's some concern just before the race started, Ken, among the officials about the electrics here. It rained all night. The caution lights here weren't working properly. They're afraid they may have to go to the old yellow flag method. We'll have to see when the first occasion for yellow comes. Here's Mike Alexander again.
Let's see what the issue was here.
Well, Mike Alexander down on the inside of Sterling Marlin in car number 94, and Alexander gets very loose. You can see the back end break loose, but that's tire smoke that we're seeing as Richard Petty and Ken Schrader go by on the outside. But he gets it back up on the banking, and he just told his crew after he got on the straightaway that everything was okay. Cost him a few positions and a few anxious moments.
Now, as you watch that in slow motion, you have to remember that that was over 185 miles an hour, and he was able to control it. That's the big story. Running on the apron on a racetrack usually leads to massive incidents here.
What about the tire that smoked like that, Ned? How bad is it?
Well, it'll heat it up and could have some effect when he goes into the turn. He'll have to be careful for a few laps and not heat it anymore.
Now, here's the situation. We're 16 laps in, and it looks, Ned, like a couple of cars set their machines too tight for this racetrack.
Well, when they had their last practice yesterday afternoon, the track was very, very slick and had a lot of oil and grease and water on it. So in that case, you want to set the car up very tight. But it rained last night, washed all of that away. And some of them, and I think Richard Petty would be one of them, that their car would be too tight. But as the tires heat up, then it'll come back in his favor.
And here comes Schrader beneath Richard Petty. Ken Schrader in car number 25 is now taking over 13th as they slice their way through the field on the 31-degree east end of the speedway. Meanwhile, up in front, what a battle is beginning to develop among those leaders. The fight for first place has Earnhardt, Elliott, Bodine, Martin, all mixing it up.
This has been a remarkable race. Ken Schrader starting the back, working his way up so beautifully. Darrell Walton, the defending champion, has fallen to 33rd place. He's 13.5 seconds off the pace. One little vibration has done that to him.
And Ken Schrader is actually gaining on Dale Earnhardt, who is leading this race, and doing so by coming through the traffic.
What a dramatic story if Schrader comes from the rear. And remember, there's a $212,800 bonus if Schrader in this 25 car can win. If you win the pole, and then they have a skins game that's produced by the Unocal folks, it's up to $212,000. Only one man won it last year. That was Rusty Wallace in the second race of the year at Rockingham. So that's been accumulating. And into this year, that's the sum total now for which Ken Schrader has an extra incentive.
Schrader's car looks like it's on rails, Ken. It's one of the better handling. There he is inside of Jimmy Spencer, going in low and edging by him. It's Phil Parsons on the right of the screen.
And that is for
really
ninth.
Going.
And fellas, I believe that it was maybe a good luck situation for Ken Schrader to have wrecked the car that he sat on the pole with, because this is a better race car, in my opinion, for the race than the other car was. They massaged that other car so much to go fast forward and would run very fast, but there's a difference in running one lap and running for 500 miles, and I think this is a better race car for you.
Dale Earnhardt stays in front. Elliott, the Ford, is right there in second. And let's join Dave Despain with a car owner of number 3.
Richard Childress, you have perhaps the most feared car in Daytona this week. You sent your man out at a very fast, early pace. Are you trying to wear these guys down?
No, the car just seems to be working real good there. We made some chassis adjustments yesterday. We keep watching that 25 come up through there, so we're going to have our hands cut out for us when he gets up there.
Everybody says the track is going to get very slick by the end of the day. Your car was loose on Thursday. Are you concerned you'll be too loose at the end of the race?
No, we've got the car set and left enough of room to where we can still adjust to a slicker racetrack if we need to.
Changing track conditions very much in the mind of this guy. He won with a loose race car Thursday.
Well, national champion Rusty Wallace started 36. He's improved by 10 positions. He's up to 26th place, but all eyes are on Ken Schrader, who is now mingling with the leaders.
Here he is, developing a yearning for yellow and white, car number 5, Ricky Rudd. And he chews that one up.
Ken, we've been clocking Dale Earnhardt out front there. He's running about 47 3/10 seconds leading this race. Ken Schrader just ran the last lap at 46.8 seconds, a half a second faster than the leader, Dale Earnhardt.
In traffic.
Up into the top 5 moves Schrader as he bombards and blasts his way through the field in the 32nd annual Daytona 500. Stay tuned. 53 of the 500 miles, about 22 laps knocked down. Taking a look at the standings here, and what a battle is being put on by car number 25. Schrader just keeps running through this thing like he's throwing strikes in a bowling alley. Here he is beneath the Ford of Bill Elliott. He is closing on the Junior Johnson, number 11. Ned, I think this is one of the most dramatic runs I've ever witnessed at Daytona.
I'll tell you, you could have gotten some awfully good bets this morning that he would not be able to come through, the fact that he would even be in the top 10 at the end of 100 miles. And here, after just over 50 miles, he's up in the top 5.
Chris, you've been here a lot of years. You've been here since '59. You've seen them all. Have you ever seen anything like this?
Nothing. I just can't get over this. You know, Kenny's a new father. His Annie had a baby. He's going for the lead now. How about that on the inside? What a drive. This is phenomenal. Baby needs a pair of new shoes, is what Kenny Schrader said the other day. And he's rolling the dice here right now. He's from the back row to second place in 24 laps.
And they say you can't pass with these restrictor plates on these cars?
I think he brought his own. Let's go to Dave Despain.
The car owner, Rick Hendrick, just heard on the radio from Kenny Schrader these words: the car's great, the driver's scared. The team manager, Richard Broom, told me this morning you were going to go to the front conservatively. Is this your definition of conservative?
Well, he's been working traffic. The car's working great.
Petty is in trouble. Spinning, sliding to the inside. Richard Petty's car number 43 running in 13th position. Caution is out on the track. First caution of the day. This is in the turns 1 and 2 area.
And Ken, I believe he's stuck down in the grass. I don't think he can get the car to move him.
Richard Petty, who had a brilliant ride in the 125-mile qualifier. Caution is coming out. It will show Schrader in second spot, Earnhardt in the lead. And they say a tire went down on car number 43. Richard Petty's crew. There's his crew. They have to be dejected. They were so high, so up for this event after the great performance all week, and particularly in the 125 when he fought his way to the lead.
You know, he held it beautifully when he got into trouble. It shows the talent that man has.
Look again.
He was running behind Phil Parsons in car number 4, going along fine, and all of a sudden the back end just starts to go around.
That tire
That's
went
Lake
away.
Speed going by on the outside as the tire went down. He holds it down on the inside pretty good for a little bit. Then it goes back up the high side of the racetrack. A lot of smoke coming from the car. He never hits the outside wall, though, and brings it back down on the inside.
Aside from new tires, you ought to be able to get back in it.
Yeah, if he can get the thing to going again. Here he goes. He's finally going now. The left rear tire is flat now. And be a long journey back to the pits. Of course, he has lost at least one lap out there on the racetrack.
Well, this is a break. 60-some miles into the race. It's just time for a pit stop. This is a break for Darrell Waltrip. They've got to work on his car to get that vibration out of it. He may well be a contender. He has not fallen a lap down yet, so he could make it up.
First 10 laps were run at an average speed of 188 miles per hour, way off the overall record before the restrictor plate of 199 miles per hour. And for a moment, let's just define these restrictor plates for folks that might have joined us for the first time.
A couple of years ago, NASCAR mandated a smaller hole in a plate that sits on the bottom of the carburetor on top of the intake manifold to restrict the amount of fuel and air that can go into the engine to reduce the horsepower, which in turn reduces the speed of the cars.
And it's down to 15/16. A year ago it was a 1-inch hole. They made it just a tickle smaller, and they say they keep running fast. They've got another 15 options. Here's Dave Despain.
Kenny Schrader's crew must be very careful not to give up any of what their driver has earned them on the racetrack. They've gone to the right side for tires. They will quickly come back. They will go to the left. Let's go down pit road to Mike Joy.
You see how far out from pit wall all these cars are parked. That's so they have room to do the 4-tire change. Junior Johnson's crew done on the right, finishing up on the left. Ricky Rudd further up, maybe a little blocked in as they finish up his left tire change. Ooh, and he almost bumps the Don Levy car and finally squeezes out of there. Tight traffic on pit road.
Watching A.J. Foyt come out for a moment. Now you see Alan Kowicki's car number 7 on pit road. Here is Schrader away, right behind him Terry Labonte and Rick Wilson. Lake Speed.
It was a long stop for Schrader, far too long.
But 4 tires under caution, and it looks like he feels that he has them. That he has this field covered at the moment. Petty down and stopped.
Stuck in the grass. That left rear tire is flat now, and it just simply won't pull. The wrecker is going to have to push him in.
That's a tough break.
It is a tough break because the man, I think, had a legitimate shot at winning this race. He had dropped back some, but he had begun to come back towards the front. And then the tire goes down on him.
Well, the question was, in a lot of the critics' minds, they thought he could go well for the first half. The issue at 52 years of age was going to be the second half, Ned.
I don't think that would have been a big problem, Ken. Not on this racetrack. See, there's only 200 laps in the 500-mile race here. If we were at Dover, Delaware, Rockingham, North Carolina, where you go 500 laps, then yes, I'd say that it could be a problem. But I don't think at Daytona that would have been a big problem for him.
Look at the incident with Darrell Waltrip here coming out of the pits. This just happened a moment ago. Here he is coming up to speed, and look at that tire.
Wow.
Just gets by it, rolled loose.
There's hazards everywhere. What about this tremendous humidity today, Ned, on the drivers themselves?
Well, certainly humidity is not in the driver's favor, but most of them are in absolute tip-top condition, and they don't really pay a lot of attention to the atmospheric conditions.
You know, it's amazing. You talk about condition, Ned and Ken. Years ago, we used to see the drivers at Robinson's bar having a big party the night before the 500. Now I see the drivers at 6 o'clock in the morning in their running clothes out on the beach, just staying in condition. No fun anymore.
Here at the Daytona International Speedway, we have a new look leaderboard after this caution period. Jimmy Spencer now appropriates first, Earnhardt second, the Elliott Ford into third, Sterling Marlin, Neil Bonnet, Bobby Hillen rounding out those men up in front. We have 40 cars in the lead lap as we have completed 9 going for 30 laps now.
Jimmy Spencer is out front because he changed only 2 tires in the pits and got out quickly. How much of a handicap will that be when the green comes out, Ned, with all those drivers behind him with 4 fresh ones on?
Could make a difference because 4 tires certainly are worth more than just 2 tires.
Let's join David Hobbs, who is in the infield area with Linda Petty.
You're right, Ken. Here I'm in the garage with Linda Petty, and as usual, you're not watching the race in the pits, but now you're the car owner. Shouldn't you really have been there in the pits watching?
I don't think so. I'm back here with the family, and we're just listening and keeping our fingers crossed and wishing for about that much luck today. And looks like we didn't get too much good luck, but you know, it's not over. It's just started. Maybe we can get some new tires on it and we'll be off and rolling.
Well, you guys in the commentary booth can see the car. Are they pushing it back? Is she going to get her car back in the race again? They're going to put more tires
on the hook,
well,
David.
I can't see from here, but they say that they're bringing him in and they're bringing him to pit road, which means if they're bringing him to pit road, they must be going to put tires on it and, you know, try to get it going.
Well, I hear they're bringing it into pit road now, so he'll be back out in the race, but he must have lost at least 2 laps by now. Do you think he can make that back? You're looking for more yellows?
In this race, anything can happen. The guys that are out front right now might not be there at the end, and the guys that are behind might be up front.
Well, a disappointed car owner and wife, Linda Petty, but knowing that Richard Petty run here at Daytona, anything could happen, and we'll see what does happen back from up there in the booth with you guys.
You know, I remember a few years, well, maybe more than a few years ago, that Richard Petty was 8 laps down at Dover, Delaware, and came back to win the race.
At Nashville, Tennessee, one race I was many years ago, he was 13 laps off the pace and wound up winners.
And didn't he, in his first race here in 1964, just have a tremendous race, win by a lap or two? It was one of the biggest wins in Daytona, the only big one, I think, where somebody won by a brilliant margin. Well, Richard Petty's luck of recent, since he won the Firecracker 400, and his 200th career win on this very track back in 1984, has not been very, very good. Let's go to Dave Despain.
We're in Kenny Schrader's pit, where team manager Richard Broom was explaining about the conservative approach that took them from 42nd to the lead in 24 laps, and now you're back in 15th. What happened on the pit stop?
Well, we had a lug nut to hang on the left front wheel, and my tire changer, he was just having problems getting it off, and we just got fouled up there on that deal. We just have to come back to the front again. The car's running great.
How many times can you pass this whole field today in order to win this race?
Well, I hope just as many as it takes.
Good luck today. So far, they're undefeated.
He's a man who first made himself known, Richard Broom, on the water. He built great drag boats, race boats, and Rick Hendrick brought him into this program. Guess he's got it all figured out. If you can run them on the water, you can run them on the asphalt.
Well, my question here is how much of that kind of running can an engine stand, you know, just all out, constantly on it with very little, if any, breathing?
Well, with that restrictor, what about it?
Well, it can stand much more than that. It's not nearly as hard on them as it used to be as the green flag rolls again.
Back to green at lap 31, with Spencer leading, Earnhardt second, Elliott third, Marlin fourth, Bonnet fifth, Bobby Hillen sixth, Jeff Bodine seventh, Mark Martin in eighth, A.J. Foyt in ninth, Derek Cope in 10th, Parsons showing 11th on this start.
And for the fans wondering about Richard Petty's car, they took it back behind the wall, Ken. They are working on it, and then hopefully they'll get it back in as Earnhardt goes for the lead.
Battle for the lead. Down to the bottom of the racetrack comes car number 3, and the Chevrolet of Earnhardt moves around car number 57, the Pontiac of Jimmy Spencer. Dave Despain.
Schrader's team is not concerned about wear and tear on the engine. They feel the reason they've been able to get to the front so handily is the handling of the race car. They feel they're not having to work the power plant that hard. They don't want to have to come from the back all day long, but if they have to, they think that motor could last with no problem, Chris. But keep in mind, crew chiefs always talk like that.
But fellas, now that with the restrictor plates, they're only turning these engines about 75 to 7,600 RPMs. When they don't run restrictor plates, they turn them about 82 or 8,300 RPMs, and that's why it's so much harder on them to run the high RPMs.
Now here are the positions as they came to caution and on the restart after that pit stop. Earnhardt fell just a spot. Schrader was the big loser all the way back to 15th there as they continue to sort themselves out in scary manner up there in the banking. Bodine giving us this view as Bobby Hillen dives down on the inside. And they almost touch here.
And here's Darrell Waltrip looking a lot better now than he did before the yellow. Waltrip on the left of this car.
I was thinking that was Bobby Hillen's car down in there. Let's take a look as they come back into the corner. Right in front is Jimmy Spencer. Get a sense of that 31-degree banking. It really throws you up there. You really carry a G-load down in there, Ned.
Yes, you do. And I think the point that
20
made a big difference in back since the green flag came out. And I think the fact that they did only put on 2 tires on that car has hurt him.
Here's car number 5, Ricky Rudd. Right up there with Phil Parsons, field out of turn 4. Jeff Bodine at the controls. Junior Johnson car. Schrader right there beside him.
Schrader's car doesn't seem to be as superior since the pit stop as it did before the pit stop.
Well, he's come back to 8th from 15th.
Yeah, and he's passing the best cars on the track. So
here he is. He's up under Neil Bonnet. That would move him another couple of spots. He's headed for 7th. He's pulling along with car number 8, Bobby Hillen.
I wonder how many of the other cars.
Schrader's gone in front of them. He's up to what, 5th, 6th? Here he is, working on Ricky Rudd.
Well, Rudd's currently running in the 9th position.
I beg your pardon. Here's the 25 car behind Parsons. Got my green and white cars mixed up there. Here's Petty's car being worked on back in the garage area.
Of course, with all that mud and grass under there, they have a little bit more to do to it than just put 4 tires on it. They got to check everything out to be sure that everything is safe.
Earnhardt first, Elliott second. Amazing they've run this far with 40 cars still in the lead lap. Here's the number 11 car down to the bottom. And sneak his way up through comes the Jeff Bodine machine. See if we can find out what's going on with Richard Petty's car. Phil Parsons slowing down pretty dramatically out there. Looked like he might be coming in. Let's go to David Hobbs.
Well, Ken, the big problem with Richard Petty's car is that when all 4 tires went down, it dropped onto the exhaust pipe. And they're having a heck of a job trying to straighten that out. They keep jamming rods down it and opening it up, but it's very, very flat under the car, and they had a tremendous job getting the jack under it. That's all 4 tires changed. They've done a few bits and pieces. The bodywork generally is very good, but underneath, this car has taken a bit of a pounding on the pavement.
Out on the track, leader Dale Earnhardt is coming up on the movie cars, and there we go. He's in the film Days of Thunder.
They pitted for a while. They were in for several laps and came back out.
Well, you hope to get their pictures in a hurry because he went by them pretty quickly.
They're just running 100 miles and they are not being scored. 2 machines out here for that motion picture.
Ken, you mentioned Phil Parsons going into the pits there just a moment ago. He had a change of right side tires. He's going back out, but he's going a lap down to the field. Tough break for Phil Parsons. He was in for about 26 seconds.
Schrader in the 25 car is now up to 6. He's around Derek Cote. There's Mark Martin in the 6 and Sterling Marlin, the blue car, number 94 on the outside. Leader continues to be Earnhardt.
Bill Elliott's been sort of quiet down here during speed weeks this year, but now Ken Schrader passes another car, but Elliott's car running very strong, staying right there with Earnhardt. So a lot of people feels that he will be a factor in this race, and certainly has shown so far that he has some muscle in his Ford.
Two-time winner of the event, Elliott in the 9, and look at Schrader in the green and white, car number 25, continuing to slip on through here, try to run him down. To 3rd, from 15th comes Schrader. 4 new tires on the car. Mark Martin staying in there, the number 6. Sterling Marlin now 5th. Derek Cope back there in 6th. Jimmy Spencer is 7th. Jeff Bodine is 8th. Here's Petty coming back on, several laps down. Get an idea of how quick those leaders are running, and look at Schrader just close up that interval.
Well, that car is strong.
190.2 in the last lap.
That's exactly the speed that Earnhardt was running before the caution came out.
For the lead, Elliott goes to the bottom, attempting to go out in front for the first time in the 500. It has been Earnhardt leading, Schrader fighting his way all the way from dead last to take the lead. Caution, he's fallen back to 15th, fought his way in that green and white number 25 car back to 3rd. Dale Inman, crew chief for Petty, is standing by with David Hobbs.
Dale, how's the car look underneath?
Well, it don't seem to be that much damage. You know, they bent the spoiler and everything on the rear, bringing it in. The front air dam seems to be the big problem. We're not going to run real fast. Of course, we're a bunch of laps down. But he said he had a right rear tire going down just as he went in the corner, and it just got away from him.
After such a good run on Thursday, you're pretty disappointed. After such a good run on Thursday, was it a real big disappointment to have a simple thing like that put you out?
Well, we was having a good run today. Just we cut a tire down. That can't be helped.
Thanks, Dale.
Falling back dramatically goes Elliott. He was running side by side with car number 3, Earnhardt, and now he finds himself back in 4th or 5th.
Well, he just simply got down there on the inside. Nobody would go with him, and dropped him back.
More from Daytona shortly. At the Daytona International Speedway, we've just had a major incident down here in turn 1 involving 4 cars. It looked like Phil Parsons, number 4, got loose. The Mike Alexander number 12 has been collected. So has Alan Kowicki's car number 7 been involved, and Robbie Moroso, the rookie's number 20. That's his 2nd car this week. He had one wiped out in turn 2 when a car was losing oil in front of him in practice the other day.
Well, here we can see the car number 4 of Phil Parsons already sideways, Alan Kowicki down on the inside, and Rob Moroso right in the middle, and Mike Alexander, the car coming up behind there, the red car number 12, as they spin out into the grass. A lot of damage done to the 3 cars on the left, the 20 car, the 12 car, and the 4 car. Now, Alan Kowicki doesn't seem to have too much damage to the car number 7 on the right. In fact, he gets away from the scene of the accident.
Back on the way to the pits now.
Here's Mike Joy.
Steve Bird is trying to find out where his race car is and what kind of shape it's in. First off, is Rob okay?
Yeah, Rob's fine. I guess, I don't know, something happened down there. Somebody wasn't driving too smart, I'll tell you that. Sorry.
But he's okay. Can he get back around?
He's fine. We're just stuck in the mud right now. We're trying to get out. Waiting for a tow truck to pull him out. We're just stuck in the mud, and we'll get it back here and see how bad it is.
The defending Busch Grand National champion is the youngest driver in this field, and it appears that the rain last night didn't so much affect the racetrack as this infield grass. Here's Dave Despade.
With Alan Kowicki's team crew chief Paul Andrews on the radio, heard the words, "We got hit." I don't know how bad it is. They'll find out momentarily as Kowicki comes wheeling down pit road. The leaders are in. Dale Earnhardt is in the far end of the pit road. Also pitting Bill Elliott. Here comes Jimmy Spencer in the 6 of Mark Martin. Has gotten his fuel and moved back out, and still no sign of Kowicki as it is wholesale pit stops here, and Alan may be stuck out there in traffic.
Kowicki just ambling down toward the pits now. As they came to the caution flag, Richard Petty made up a lap. He moved around the leaders and shot down by to take one back.
He just got another lap back by not stopping at the pits this time, so he's picking up 2 laps that he's lost during this caution flag period.
We'll check the number of laps he's down in just a moment after that incident involving Richard in turn 2. Here's Alan Kowicki, number 7, pitting. A.J. Foyt alongside there. Kowicki's car dented some in the back. Here's Dave.
Just a year ago, Alan Kowicki might well have won this race, but for a late flat tire. Now his left front tire is flat. They'll change the right side rubber. He's been tagged in the rear. That does not appear to be substantial damage. The nose of the car is also scuffed and skinned, but not badly beat up. It will be a slower race car than he started this race with, but it appears to be a car that can still go out and run the remainder of the 500 miles. Ken Squire.
Talk about the pit crew work. Dale Earnhardt just came in and got out in 24.7 seconds, took on 4 tires, where Ken Schrader also got 4 tires for 31.7 seconds. That's 6 seconds longer Schrader's crew took than Earnhardt's crew.
Under caution, second time today in the Daytona 500, as Earnhardt continues to be the dominating factor up in front, and Ken Schrader is the dominating factor through the rest of the field. He's come from the rear once and from 15th. Second time to challenge out here in car number 25. And now we see Kowicki's car going back behind the wall for additional work.
Well, that was a little surprising. I thought that he was ready to go back out on the racetrack, but the car was not, the engine was not running on the car, so you can see they pulled the hood up on it now, so they're looking underneath there. Let's go to Mike Joy.
Richard Petty made up those laps, but he's back in the pits. That string on the left side of the car checks the wheelbase, but the front air dam has gotten some bad damage in either the previous or this most recent incident. So they'll take a little time checking out the alignment of the car so Richard can go the full 500 miles. Not much they can do about that air dam. That'll hurt him aerodynamically as he tries to push this Pontiac through the wind. So if Richard made up 2, perhaps he'll be at the tail end of this lap when he goes back out. But they're setting this car up right now and taking their time because we're under caution. He's at the back of the line anyway, and they want to go the full distance, the 500 miles.
With 110 miles in the ratio, 35 cars on the lead lap, so it's still pretty competitive.
Dave Despain.
Alan Kowicki has torn loose an oil line under the car, and that's what the crew has gone to work on as they tried to refire the car. No oil pressure, and the reason is back under here. An oil line jerked loose in that infield skid. They're going to have to fix that before they can get Kowicki back into the fray. Kowicki bails out of the car. He is, of course, his own owner and does a lot of his own work on the automobile, and Kowicki has climbed out of the car now to try to help with the repair process that looks like it's going to take a while because they're going to have to completely rebuild that oil line for Alan Kowicki's car. Alan Kowicki being interviewed here as we check in to find out what happened out there.
Be able to get back out, but that pretty much, you know, is going to ruin our chances today.
Alan, how did it start? What happened to you?
One car ran into another one. I'm not sure which one, if it's like Phil Parsons and Rob Moroso or something like that. Just somebody made a move and somebody else running in the back end of them just sent a whole bunch of cars spinning. I had nowhere to go.
Can this thing be fixed? Can you get back out there?
We'll be back, but you know, this pretty much hurts our chances for the day.
Alan Kowicki, let's go to Mike Joy.
Dave Despain, I'm holding the business end of a racing helmet, and one of the biggest innovations in recent years from the Simpson folks. This is the old styrofoam inner liner of the helmet, and you can see here when you push in on it, you can make a pretty good dent with your head if you hit something. Simpson spent the whole year developing this new style of foam liner, which when you push it in has a substantial memory. It comes right back. And in Snell Foundation testing, 20% better protection against the first impact, 40% better protection against the secondary impact. This is probably the greatest innovation in driver safety since Bell invented the full face helmet back in the 60s.
Davey Allison is just leaving the pits after a lengthy stay in car number 28.
Yeah, and they had the hood up on the car, Ken. He was in there for quite a while. I don't know if the car's overheating or what the situation is, but Davey back out on the track. He still is in the lead lap.
Minute and 14 seconds under the hood there. What's wrong with the engine, we don't know, but he didn't lose a lap.
Let's take a look at the Budweiser leaderboard here in the Daytona 500, our live coverage of the 32nd annual $2 million race. This was after 110 miles. We saw Earnhardt then leading, and Schrader had come back to second spot. Martin Cope Elliott rounding out the top 5. In the second 5 was Jeff Bodine's Ford, followed by Ricky Rudd, Sterling Marlin, Jimmy Spencer, and Davey Allison at that time was hanging in well. The 2 movie cars have been withdrawn as of lap 41. Tommy Ellis and Bobby Hamilton. Hovering overhead today is the Goodyear Blimp Enterprise. At the controls, Captain Drew Marshall from Pompano Beach, Florida. 11th consecutive year the Goodyear blimp has covered the Daytona 500.
You know, one of the drivers doing extremely well today is Jimmy Spencer. He wearing that new look. Jimmy, Mr. Excitement, has a toupee out of what he's talking about. Dave Despain, what's going on down there?
Well, following up on Mike Joy's report about helmet safety, the drivers have another new addition from the Simpson Safety Equipment Company this year, and it's this protective belt, the harnesses that hold the drivers in the car. In the past, none of this apparatus was here. It's all been added. It's a buckle across the chest and a pad here. And that does two things. The pad protects you from impact into the sternum, and being buckled in like that keeps internal organs from moving around in case of impact. And by being strapped across this way, it keeps the belts from separating in case of impact. That allows the driver to move from side to side. Now they're strapped in tight. The less movement, the less chance of injury.
Can thank Neil Bonnet for that new improvement after he broke his sternum in a crash that separated his middle. We'll be back with more of the Daytona 500 live on CBS in a moment. Under caution for the second time today, the 32nd 500. Let's go to Mike Joy.
You're looking under the hood of Davey Allison's car. Robert Yates and the team are checking the toe out. There's a mark on the left front corner of the bumper when Davey slid in for his first pit stop about lap 26, and he caught the tire up against the pit wall. That bent a tie rod and changed the toe in. He's gone out, run a few laps. It isn't quite right. Fortunately, they have this caution to make adjustments and reset it. Here's David Hobbs.
Well, I'm with Clyde Booth, who's Rob Morozo's team manager, and he's flailing around the car. You're going to try and get it back in the track?
Well, yeah, we are right now. We've got a rear end housing bent, and we've got some pieces up in the front here that have bent, but I don't think it's as serious. We're after the Rookie of the Year, so we've got to do whatever we can do to get out there, and I think we'll...
How many laps down will you let yourself go?
What was that?
How many laps down would you let yourself go before you gave it up?
Well, you know, even if we got down 40, 50 laps, we're going to go out and give it all we can, because it's a real long season, and, you know, all the laps count.
Okay, well, good luck, Clyde, and back to Dave Despain.
And we're with Richard Broom. Great quotes abound in the Kenny Schrader pit today. The latest from Schrader on the radio: we can go racing now. The first question is, what's he been doing up until now? And the second question is, Richard, what did he mean?
Well, we put him four springs, 4 shocks on the car this morning, and a little bit more spoiler, just trying to get him comfortable with it. And you know, we're just trying to work our way back to the front. He's got his confidence in the car. It's got a little push in it, and now he says he can go racing. So we're going to loosen him up a little bit.
Is this car getting better as you go? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's coming to us.
I think that's real bad news for the rest of this field. Let's go to Mike Joy.
Robert Yates is the team owner for Davey Allison. Is that car back on straight now?
Yeah, what happened, we came in the pits, the rear brakes locked up on it, and it hit the pit wall. And it moved us, you know, moved it enough to move the steering wheel. And so we're just resetting the toe, and, you know, he pulled the steering wheel off and moved it one spoke. So probably just got it knocked a little bit sideways.
Okay, here's a guy who's had a busy month. Their dyno blew up 3 weeks ago, put 2 feet of oil and water in their engine room, and almost burned down the whole building. They ordered new parts, did a lot of research and testing. They're ready to run and win this thing.
Richard Petty making a fleet stop on pit road, just gets in there quickly, gets on the tail end of that lead lap. 35 cars still in the lead lap. Here are the standings up in front. Jack Pennington, a rookie after this caution, is in first. Mark Martin's Ford in second. Derek Cope is maintaining third. Jeff Bodine's Ford is fourth. And Rick Wilson in car number 75 lies in fifth, followed by Brett Bodine, the new driver for the Kenny Bernstein team. Sterling Marlin, Ernie Irvan, Earnhardt, and Elliott round out the top 10. Here's David Hobbs.
What a quick spin and a quick trip to the medical unit. You're okay?
Yeah, I'm fine, David. Thank you.
What happened to the car?
Well, I was trying to pass AJ on the inside, and I guess the car behind us, my spotter told me that Moroso clipped me and turned me in the wall. I really hated the guys that worked all winter long to build a good car. The car was flying. We had an equalized tire, so we were just going to try to get back in position, wait for another caution flag, try to get her lap back and try to win the race. But I guess it's not to be. I just like to thank Kodak and Delco Remy and this whole Morgan McClure team. They had a fine product here today, and that's a shame it's out.
Well, you're completely out the race. What about Richmond next week? Got a car for that?
Oh, yeah, we've got another car. We got several other cars, but it won't help us any today.
Well, another guy, a very disappointed driver out of there. Super Bowl of racing, Phil Parsons. Back to you, Ken.
Jack Pennington in only his third Winston Cup start, that white and black automobile. Pennington
How about that, Ken? Shooting for Rookie of the Year honors is a $25,000 prize at the end of the year and a $1,000 a race stipend if he makes Rookie of the Year honors at the end of the season.
Here's the second place car. That's number 6, Mark Martin. Maintaining third, Derek Cope from Spanaway, Washington. Jack Pennington out in front, who's run a lot of dirt in Somerville, South Carolina, Augusta, Georgia, Dublin, North Carolina. The rookie gets beaten back by the front 2 automobiles. Mark Martin and Derek Cope, first and second.
Ken, every driver in this field has aspirations of winning the Winston Cup Championship this year, and they want to get as many points as they possibly can. If they lead a lap in any of the races this year, they get 5 bonus points. And now Mark Martin, as he crosses the start-finish line, has picked up those 5 bonus points. Jack Pennington got them. A little while back, we saw Elliott run up there and make a run at Dale Earnhardt. He went up there and got 5 points and then dropped back.
Earnhardt had started in 7th. You could see him, and from the face cam, there's the Arkansas handle on the steering wheel.
And, you know, he does a little bit differently from a lot of race drivers. It looks like he puts more emphasis on his right hand as he goes into the turns. We'll watch him now as he goes down the backstretch into turn 3. Now, he pulls a little bit on his left, but look how when he positions that right hand. He really uses the right hand. Most race drivers do more pulling with their left hand than pushing with their right hand.
He'd get low marks from the driving instructor in our high school.
That's right. Driver training, that would be a C- at least, but it's good enough for about 190, 95 miles an hour for Mark Martin leading the Great American Race. That's the guy that Clyde Bolton wrote about. Mark Martin said when he walks out to the car, he looks like Eddie Arcaro. When he gets in, he looks like King Kong. Here he is up in front, number 6, Mark Martin. Roush Ford won 1 race last year. They had some bitter disappointments, including one here at Daytona, which they thought they had the race bagged, and then all of a sudden ran out of fuel with just a few moments to go.
Ken, as we see Mark Martin, the dashboard on his car and the instruments on it, let's take a look at what they are. On the right side is the fuel pressure gauge, and then we have the oil temperature gauge, and then the oil pressure gauge. Here is the water temperature gauge. So Mark Martin taking a look at all of those as he goes down the straightaway and glances in at those instruments.
No speedometer.
Well, you know, the race itself, Ken Schrader's back in 17th place, so we'll see some more passing before the next commercial.
Someone once said about speedometers, you got time to look for the speedometer, you're not going fast enough.
That's right.
Derek Cope's number 10, Earnhardt's number 3, slicing down along the inside. That comes up to 2nd for Cope, Earnhardt to 3rd.
Derek Cope using Hendrick Motorsports engines this year in his Chevrolet, and he's running very, very strong.
And he's running right over the leader, number 6, Mark Martin, as they come back to the stripe. 54 laps complete.
It's interesting. Cope has been in so many races and struggled. Then when he got an engine, he started to really go. So all he needed was an engine.
Let's go to David Hobbs with Rob Moroso.
Rob, I just spoke to Phil Parsons, and he seemed to think that you touched him from the back.
Well, I believe I did. We were running side by side, and then he got a little ahead of me, and he wanted to come in. He started coming up when my car wasn't out of the way. I let off the gas. Going that fast, you can't get on the brakes or anything. I wanted to leave enough room for him, but the draft just kept me there, and we just got together. You know, I think he came over a little bit soon, and I couldn't get back fast enough. And it's a shame it happened. The Crown Hose was running real well.
No, just a racing accident as far as you're concerned, then.
Excuse me?
Just a racing accident as far as you're concerned.
Oh, I certainly didn't want to wreck my car on purpose.
Well, Clyde's in there trying to make sure you get back in the race. You think you've got a chance?
I think we might have a chance to get it back together. Those guys working on it are a great bunch of guys. If anybody can get it back together, they can.
Well, Rob, we got to stop meeting like this in the pits after these crashes. Let's go down to Mike Joy.
One reason Mark Martin is up at the front is because Jack Roush, his car owner, likes to play the percentages. The tires on Martin's car had only 26 laps on them when this caution flag came out, so he said, leave them on, we'll get fresh ones next time. They just gave him fuel. That put him up to the front of the pack on the restart. He wasn't the only one thinking that way. Here's Dave Despain.
Buddy Parrott is a veteran crew chief, saw the situation exactly the same way, called the shot exactly the same. He said, our right tires are fine, and we want to be in the thick of that lead draft. He gave Derek Cope a dose of gas and sent him back out there, and Cope drove his car right into the lead. Unfortunately, Buddy didn't have anything to solve the problem of that black number 3 that has since passed his man. But Cope is strong here today with Buddy calling the shots.
Man calling the shots once again is in that white and green number 25. Schrader racing Lake Speed in the 83. They're still slicing back up through the field. This car, number 25, has made it all the way to the top twice in the rear. Currently is 14th and closing up on Terry Labonte.
You know, Chris, I don't believe that car is coming back up through the pack quite as good as he did a little bit earlier. He's having trouble. That's Ken Schrader in car number 25, having trouble now getting around Lake Speed. I'm sure that a lot of the others have made adjustments on their cars during these pit stops, and certainly that has helped them to maintain better speeds than they were running earlier.
I think Speed's car and this last pit stop got the wrenches turned just right there. And there's Schrader cutting down low on the track. Obviously trouble here for the driver who qualified on the pole and started in the back row, heading for the pits now. Hopefully the trouble is not terminal. A tough break for Schrader in the Lumina.
Looked like there might have been a little smoke from the car, Chris, and certainly this would be an unscheduled pit stop for Ken Schrader. Boy, what a run he has had here today, and now all of a sudden headed to the pits. Dale Earnhardt continues to lead this race as Schrader down on the inside. It looks like just coasting to the pits. Of course, his crew will be there ready for him when he comes in as we watch that big pack of cars up front.
Yep. We mentioned earlier today about Schrader's emotions, all the trouble he's had here, going from the front to the back, wrecking in Thursday's race. Now here, the big disappointment in the 500.
Well, he's running in a very thick pass bunch of cars there right now. That's Michael Waltrip right directly behind him. As we watch Schrader now coming on into the pits, he finally has made it to his pit area. We'll see if it's something that they will be able to repair. I'm sure that he's had conversation with the crew on the radio, and he's going behind the wall. Let's go to the pits and Dave Despain.
The clock has struck midnight on the Cinderella story, but perhaps only temporarily. They will go under the hood and try to determine what has happened here and whether or not the damage is terminal. Richard Broom goes to talk with his driver while the crew, for the moment, look, shake their hands, and try to determine what happened. Cheech Gardy, any idea what's happened here?
Motor.
Blown?
Yeah.
Terminal?
Yeah.
Nobody's hurrying to do anything here. I got a feeling this one is all done. Kenny Schrader is climbing out of his car, and it looks like it's all over for the man who sat on the pole here today and drove so magnificently through the first 2 rounds of green flag racing. Schrader taking off the helmet. Kenny, what happened?
I guess something in the engine let go. I mean, it was working good, you know. It just something finally gave up, and that don't happen to the Hendricks team very often. So it just happened here.
Chris Economaki speculated that 2 charges to the front might be taking a lot out of the motor. Did you feel you were using up your car driving that hard?
Nah, you ain't using the motor any harder here. Running the back of that deal or running to the front.
Talk to me, if you can, about the frustration of what's happened to you over the last 2 years here.
It ain't been no real bad week. I mean, we got the pole, we got the Clash. We run good in the 25s, and I think we could have done good today.
I think so too, and I think one of these years he will come down here and complete the package. But again, this year, Kenny Schrader has come up short at Daytona International Speedway.
And the $212,000 bonus for winning the pole in the 500 moves to Richmond, Virginia next week and becomes $220,000. Here's a late sports development. It is being reported from Associated Press that Buster Douglas's manager has now struck a deal for a fight with Evander Holyfield heavyweight championship in September, and that means that Tyson will have to wait. Again, it's going to happen. There'll be a heavyweight fight. It will be Buster Douglas, the guy with a long reach, and Evander Holyfield out of Atlanta, Georgia, going in September for the heavyweight fight. We'll try to get some more information about that as the day continues.
Boy, he's a fellow that has really come into notoriety in the sports world here of recent, and we got some fellows out here today that's coming into notoriety. Derek Cope running right up front, running in second place there with Dale Earnhardt. Now, Dale Earnhardt is no stranger to the front, but Derek Cope, well, he hasn't run up front that much, but he might be a force to be reckoned with not only here today, but all season long.
Two of the major factors, Richard Petty right here and again out of the pits, obviously not a chance to win. Kenny Schrader out of it before we get to 175 miles, and the attrition is starting to take its toll.
As Ned Jarrett was pointing out, that is a Hendrick engine that is in that car running in second place. Here's Earnhardt's look in the last 10 years of Daytona 500-mile competition. Come close, been up that top 5 time after time, but it's always eluded him at the finish. He came the closest in '86. Looked like it was his. And then, for a thimble full of fuel, he would have traded his kingdom. Jeff Bodine came home victorious.
As they say, close but no cigar. Alan Kulwicki's back in the race after 19 minutes and 45 seconds in the pit. He's 19 laps down, but he persists.
Jeff Bodine, picture from car number 11, maintaining 4th position in the 500.
And we see Mark Martin directly in front of him, a pair of Fords running together.
63 laps are complete. There has been very little interval on those front cars today, Chris. They've been bundled up from the outset.
A lot of the contenders remaining in the lead lap. There's 200 laps in this race, and as you say, 63 have been run. Dale Earnhardt leads, Derek Cope is 2nd, Mark Martin 3rd, Jeff Bodine 4th, and Rick Wilson next in line.
From Mark Martin's bumper cam, here he is looking back at that car number 11, who was just sneaking a peek at him. See Bodine in that number 11, that Junior Johnson car. This number 11 car won the second 125-mile qualifying. And let me tell you, folks, they qualify the front row 8 days before the race, the front row only, and then they decide the rest of the field with the 125-mile qualifiers this past Thursday. And in those races, this number 11 went non-stop, not having to take on fuel. They have, what, 21 gallons of fuel on board?
22.
22, and that particular run is considered an economy run in stock car racing that took Bodine to victory when a lot of other cars ran out of fuel.
Yeah, without the restrictor plates, they can only go about 100 miles.
You know, that in-car camera of Bodine showing where he sits. There was an interesting shot to see how close to the steering wheel that he prefers to sit. You know, you ever sit that close, Ned, or would you like to be further back? You see, he's right up there. Let's look at Mark Martin now sitting in his car. See, he's way back. His arms are almost outstretched. It's a personal taste. As Ken calls it, that Arkansas grip there, he's crisscrossing his arms there. That's got to be a tiring way to drive. He'll sleep tonight when this race is over.
Phil Barkdahl just bringing his car in.
Yeah. Notice Martin doesn't have his goggles on. He's driving without his goggles.
Fellas, let's notice this wire here. You wonder, has he got an electronic steering wheel? No, that's to the radio, the two-way radio, and all he has to do is push a button. Up here, when he wants to talk to his crew members, he pushes that button, and of course they can talk to him anytime they want to.
Can he ask for FM or AM or?
No,
right.
That's all mono.
You look for a top 40 station there now. Dale Earnhardt back out front ahead of Derek Cope and Jeff Bodine 3rd. Rick Wilson now 4th. Mark Martin 5th. Bill Elliott 6th. Jimmy Spencer 7th. And Ricky Rudd next.
Earnhardt bearing down, trying to win this 500 for the first time, and he's looking strong, but Elliott just as strong at the present time here at the 500. 69 of 200 laps complete. Dale Earnhardt continues out in front, and then it's a choo-choo train behind. Approximately 10 cars in there. Here you see the leader, number 3. Going in 2nd is Derek Cope. Bodine is 3rd. Wilson 4th. Elliott 5th. Jimmy Spencer 6th. Mark Martin 7th. Ricky Rudd in the 8th position, while 9th is Terry Labonte and 10th is Michael Waltrip.
Earnhardt's lead of over 1 second is the biggest lead anyone has amassed during the course of the race so far. A 1 second lead is the biggest. Can you imagine that's how close the competition has been all day here at Daytona?
We've had 2 cautions thus far in the event. The story has been Earnhardt. It was the story of Ken Schrader, who fought his way all the way from the back to the lead, made a second run from 15th up toward 1st, then lost the engine in car number 25. He has retired from the event. Richard Petty has cut down a tire. He is back on the track, running several laps down from the leaders. Here you see some of the 35mm work that's going on for the new motion picture about stock car racing down there on pit road. Earnhardt in front and seeming to be able to run by himself. That train of cars can't catch him.
Hey, that's bad news for the rest of the field, Ken, when one car can pull away, as important as drafting is here, and Earnhardt still just building his lead, pulling away from the pack.
Earnhardt's now 1.5 seconds, a second and a half, and showing his hand. He's got the strong car now that Schrader is gone.
Here's car number 75. Let's take a look at Rick Wilson in this race.
Well, he's currently running in the 4th position, having a good run, Ken.
Let's see what he's done thus far.
How
For his
about that?
starting position, he's working his way right up through the field, and he loves these big tracks. Talladega and Daytona, they're his cup of tea.
Yes, they are. He started 28th, and after 50 miles, moved to 19th, and then 17th. So he just moved right on up there very
He's staying
nicely.
in my hotel, and then every day he's out there exercising, staying in shape. It's showing off well now, and that number 75 for Rick Wilson. Dave
Just
Despain.
like Chris, running on the beach every day. Here's Dave Despain.
We pit reporters should have been running on the beach to stay in shape. It's hot down here, and that means it's going to be a tough day for engines. We're in the Derek Cope pit. More on his engine story. Yes, he has a 21 race deal with Hendrick Motorsports to provide engines that come out of Randy Dorton's engine shop there. For this race, a variation on that deal. Keith Dorton is a much less well-known engine builder, and he put together a Daytona special, and this crew liked it so much they said, let's run that motor and make a deal with Keith to run the engines when we're not running his brother Randy's power plants. And so it's a Keith Dorton engine here today. Let's go up pit road to Mike Joy.
Well, Dave, Hendrick Engines does have 5 cars here at Daytona. Kenny Schrader, that's the Bingham and Revis engine, Mark Eisler, and Rick Wetzel, who has Darrell Waltrip's car, Waddell Wilson, Ricky Rudd's engine. And where's Randy Dorton, the head of this organization? He is up on the roof. He's the spotter for Darrell Waltrip. And Waltrip says he's so good at it, he can't leave Dorton back at the engine shop. He's Darrell Waltrip's eyes around the racetrack.
When they talk about engines, they're all essentially the same. The Chevrolet parts are in them. However, one builder will charge $18,000, and the owner at the other end of the line will charge $23,000. And that's the price range for these engines, between $18,000 and $23,000. Even they look the same from the outside, they are different inside. Let's go now down to David Hobbs.
Well, we're looking at one of those engines now which could possibly be mortally wounded, and there's no worse feeling for a race driver than to be departed from some such race like this. The Daytona 500 is so important to these guys, and you can see the car being worked on. There may be life in this old dog yet. We'll soon see as they look at the car, and then gathered behind the car are all these reporters waiting for words of wisdom from Kenny Schrader or the owner or the crew chief. A very sad scene, one of those things that so many drivers do not want to be involved with. Back to you guys in the booth.
And we've now rolled down to, 75 laps complete here in the Daytona 500. Great race going on. And as you look at this race, that whole story about Chevrolet and Ford, we heard all those stories about how Ford was going to come out here and really do it in December. Now Chevy has come right back, just as they did a year ago.
Well, we've got a Chevy leading, a Ford second, and an Oldsmobile third.
So you got a good variety up there, and certainly the Chevrolet has been the dominant car up to this point. But you still got to wonder about Bill Elliott. Is he holding anything back? Mark Martin still running in there very strong in the 9th position at the moment. Elliott running up there in the 5th position. So those cars are certainly to be reckoned with before this race is over.
Here now at Daytona, showing 79 laps complete. Dale Earnhardt dominating in car number 3.
Not too long ago, Jack Pennington, the rookie, was leading. Where is he now? 28th.
And on pit road. Now here's the group further back. Car number 94, Sterling Marlin, heading up that count. He is running in 14th. Rusty Wallace is in that group. He's unhitched himself from some of those cars. Sterling Marlin's car, and it looks to me like the number 27 car of Rusty Wallace has pulled up and is leading that group at this point.
Yes, he has. So he would now be running in the 14th position, moving around Sterling Marlin. He figured, well, maybe I can pull this group a little bit faster, and maybe we can draft up to the group of cars in front of us. And that's their goal, is to try to hook up together and pull up on the cars in front of them.
Rusty Wallace's Pontiac just did not live up to expectation down here at all, Ned.
No. In fact, he has never run good on the racetracks where they require the restrictor plates.
Harold Elliott with his motors thought they had it licked this year, but that's not the case. Let's go to David Hobbs.
Hi, well, I'm with Ann Schrader down in the pits, a very disappointed wife of Kenny Schrader. How do you feel?
Well, it's kind of a disappointing day. The guys just really had the car working well, and Kenny just did an unbelievable job of coming from the back to the front. And I just couldn't believe it when I saw that puff of smoke. It must have been between 1 and 2. Our faces went from smiles to sad.
Well, you were surprised as we were that he got there so quickly.
No, that Kenny said they had gotten the car working so well, and it was feeling so comfortable. And I am a firm believer when he's in a really comfortable car, he just drives the heck out of it. And I could just see was sort of, you know, taking it cautiously, but was able to go very fast through the pack. And, you know, we were just thrilled to see him up there 3rd and 2nd.
Well, a disappointing day, but not all bad. She's off to the condo at Ormond Beach for the rest of the afternoon to watch it on CBS. And on CBS is Dave Despain.
We're at Bill Elliott's pit. Bill's been in the thick of this battle all day, but right now he seems to be stalled in his move to the front. He's due in about 15 laps. Let's see if we can find out what the problem is from the new crew chief on this team, Mike Beam. What's Bill's trouble?
He says he's got oil all over the windshield. He can't see, really. Just going to ride out here. We're going to stop in about 15 laps, and maybe we can get it clean for him.
Is it a bad enough problem that you would bring him in early?
No. He says he can hold on, hopefully. He just keeps asking how many more laps, and we just keep telling him, just hold on for a little bit.
Mike's listening on the radio to Bill Elliott. 3 laps ago, he said, I may have to come in. Come with me a minute. He said, I can't see at all. I may have to come in a little earlier.
So I can see when we're coming in.
If you guys keep running here, we're going to stay here and mess up your picture all day.
You can mess up the picture as long as we run good. I don't care.
That's Dan Elliott. Let's go up pit road to Mike Joy.
Dave, we had a little trouble finding the Raymock team. They have new sponsor, new colors, and a new car, Oldsmobile, after 4 years with Pontiac. And they have a new driver. Right now, 3rd place running Rick Wilson. Bob Rahilly, you guys must be pleased. He's nearly won a major race here. May do it again today.
Yeah, we're real pleased with the way Rick's running. We're trying to learn the Oldsmobile a little bit. We're a little loose right now, but we feel like we're going to tighten it up on the next pit stop, which comes up in about 6 or 7 laps. I'd like to take the opportunity to thank Intervale, Food Line, and Oldsmobile for the support they've given us. I think we're going to do a real good job for them this year. We'll keep the car underneath Rick.
Now tell me, is that last year's Pontiac with new skin, or is that an all-new race car?
Yes, it is. That's last year's car that we rebodied to an Oldsmobile, and as you know, it was a very competitive car last year, and it looks like it's going to do the same thing this year.
Well, we'll see later in this race if Rick Wilson is wearing the Emperor's new clothes.
Ken, they will have pit stops coming up, green flag pit stops, if there's not a caution in the next 6 to maybe 15 laps. And NASCAR is allowing a 6th man over the wall to service the driver and clean the windshield. That's all that extra man can do. Now, normally they only allow 5 men over the wall to service the car when he comes in for a pit stop. But today they are allowing a 6th man. In fact, they've made that rule since the race started. So I don't know what's happening, that they're getting oil all over their windshields out there, but they are allowing an extra man over the wall to clean the windshields.
That's a sensible step for safety, because when a driver can't see, that's a dangerous situation on the track. And I commend NASCAR for that move.
Derek Cope, 2nd spot. Rusty Wallace. His Pontiac back further in the field, currently shown in 16th position here in the Daytona 500. The view from the Goodyear Blimp Enterprise of the Winston Tower here at the Daytona Speedway, sold out. Captain Drew Marshall and company from Pompano Beach giving us these incredible pictures of this great racing facility. And we take a look at the rundown after 200 miles have been completed. We're actually moving toward the halfway point. 1 more lap and there will be 90 laps down, 10 laps to go, 2 crossed flags in the event. 30 cars are running in the lead lap as you saw that rundown. All in the lead lap.
The crowd here today, Ken, the largest in history, the first time in the history of Daytona Speedway, they let no cars in the infield after last night. The infield was full all night long. Not a single spectator's car was permitted in the infield this morning.
Checking that interval and stretching to 4 seconds between number 3 Earnhardt and then number 10 Derek Cope from Spanaway, Washington. Jeff Bodine in the Junior Johnson red number 11 Ford in 2nd. These are lap cars. That's Alan Kowicki right there.
And Earnhardt coming into the pits.
It's the leader. The leader is on pit road just before halfway. Here's Dave Despain.
And it will
Philby follow the leader here on pit road. The Purolator team of Derek Cope is ready to go right behind Earnhardt. Here comes the leader in, and he's going 4 tires on the right side. Chocolate Myers goes for the gas. It looks like it'll be right sides only, and right behind him, Derek Cope should be coming down pit road as he is expecting to make his stop on the same lap. The crew standing by. Earnhardt in and out, and still Cope has not come on pit road as expected.
He has taken over the lead, Dave. As a matter of fact, Bill Elliott came in, but Elliott just got into the pits. Now Derek Cope coming into the pits. Elliott just got in as Earnhardt was going out, but Derek Cope dips down now to come into the pits. The Chevrolet number 10.
How about that pit stop on Earnhardt? That seems slow.
15.95 seconds for 2 tires. That is slow.
I tell you, it took more time to put in the gas than it did to change the tires.
Here's Derek Cope making his pit stop. This is the Whitcomb racing team. They come from the state of New Hampshire. You'd think that is an unusual spot, but let's go to Dave Despang.
Buddy Parrott, playing the strategist here, elected to stay out one more lap. He told us he'd follow Earnhardt into the pits. He did not do that. He stayed out. He led the race for a lap and now goes to the right side tires. It was a slow stop for Earnhardt. The problem was with gas. The stop for Cope will be even slower at 17:21 for a much less experienced pit crew. They're back underway.
Davey Allison moving up through now in the car number 28. Now that really looked like the kind of garage I'd like to go to. Didn't get any free mugs or glasses, but they certainly got him in and out.
That's right, no dishes. But listen, here he's in 1 minute and 14 seconds in the pits under a yellow flag a while ago. Now he's leading over Jeff Bodine and Terry Labonte.
So they did get the front end fixed right. They got the toe end towed right, didn't they?
Yeah.
Robert Yates, he'll tweak it till it's right. Crew chief on car number 28 for Davey Allison. Remember last year right here in the backstretch, he rolled over and kept on running. Slid into the grass, went wheel to wheel. It looked like one of those old Economaki shows on a quarter-mile track in New Jersey.
What's Jeff Bodine waving about, Ned?
He might be coming into the pits. No, Davey Allison is coming into the pits. Jeff Bodine going by on the outside. Let's see him.
Look at the work, how hard Bodine is working from that in-car shot. That's interesting.
Now Davey Allison comes into the pits. He gives up the lead. Brett Bodine going out of the pits. It's green flag pit stop time for scheduled pit stops for everybody.
Let's watch Mark Martin now as he comes in and his crew. Here's the number 6 coming in for its stop. This is how the driver sees it. You're watching it live in the 32nd 500. And that's Robin Pemberton, his crewman, changing that tire.
With the crew cam on, that's the way that he's seeing it. Let's go to Mike Joy.
Right side tires only for Mark Martin. Remember, they got gas only on that last pit stop. They get a full 2 cans and send Martin out.
15 seconds.
The third. That isn't bad. Takes, as Ned said, it takes a while for the gas to get in. A lot of jerky movements there. And here he is back on the track, tooling up on the track.
Well, earlier this week, this is the man I had picked to win this race, Mark Martin, because of so much testing and so much determination on everyone's part from Roush Racing. Everybody comes in determined, but they just did so much work over the winter. But I got to tell you, I had a change about Thursday with Earnhardt's performance.
Again, he's all the way on the backstretch and just now put it in 4th gear. They put a very high 3rd gear ratio in there so they can keep the RPMs up on the engine, and they go way around the track before they finally put it into high gear.
Kyle Petty, number 42, back on the track, not currently in the top 20. Here's number 11, Jeff Bodine, the leader, the 86 champion.
Now remember, he got very good gas mileage the other day, but now he's coming in for some gas.
And Dick Trickle, a number 66, making himself known on the outside. Back to Mike Joy, waiting on Jeff Bodine.
Shorty Edwards has the signboard out. Tim Brewer has the wrench in hand, ready to go to work on the car that went the distance to win the qualifying race Thursday. Brewer around the right side on the front. Mike Hill around the right rear tire. The jack man is Pete Wright. Henry Benfield back with Junior's team after some stints with other shops has that first gas can in the air, and it's away. Doug Betty has the catch can ready as Benfield puts in that second can. They're doing all 4 tires. Mark Katz has already loosened up the left side lug nuts. Junior Johnson looking on. Tim Brewer hammers the nuts home at the front. Mike Hill at the back. 22.5 seconds for 2 cans of gas and 4 tires.
That's interesting because that belongs to the pit stop, but he's got 4 tires. Bill Elliott was 18 and 5/100 seconds, one of the slowest of the Ford pit stops. Davey Allison was the fastest of the Ford men at 14.1, but he only got 2 tires. So Bodine now, Junior Johnson, wants to do it his way. Kept him in there that extra time, so he's good now for another 100 miles.
Sounds like a good move.
Yeah, I think that's good strategy, really. The car perhaps wasn't working quite as good as he wanted to. Darrell Waltrip now coming into the pits, and as we see Jeff Bodine looking at the tachometer and getting that car up to speed. But I think that was a good move on their part to put all 4 tires on. Here's Darrell Waltrip in the pits.
Car number 17, he's been running up in the top 20, was 19th on the last rundown. Quick stop for Waltrip.
Now he's going to take off in first gear as we see him go out of the pits. When he gets down about the end of pit road, he'll come down into second gear. Here he goes now, about to change into second gear. But they have to stay down on the inside of the racetrack as they go out. There's a line. You see that yellow line? Then it becomes white. And they stay down below the line that you see right on the right side. Then they can blend into traffic. He's up in third gear now. But you see he's going to be out of turn 2 before he'll ever put it back in the fourth gear. There he finally did it. Got the RPMs up and trying to get up to speed.
Dave Despain.
Bobby Hillin on pit road, marching to the front thanks to all these pit stops, gets his shot at service now as his crew goes to work. Reunited with Harry Hyde last year. Veteran crew chief opts for the right side tires and fuel only, and Hillin is back into the battle.
15 and 4/10 seconds on Bobby Hillin's stop. Here's
Davey
Davey
Allison back in. Hey, this is the second pit stop for him. He was in a little while ago, so this is an unscheduled pit stop for Davey Allison. Now they're coming changing left side tires. I bet he had a vibration or maybe a tire going down.
They're looking, Ned, to see which tire is a problem. I guess one of them's giving trouble.
3 laps away from halfway, and that's worth big money this year, that halfway mark, Ned.
Yes, it is. $10,000 to the driver who leads at the halfway point.
That stop cost Davey Allison another 13 seconds. We figured out the other day slowing down and speeding up is also cost. There's Dick Trickle being chased by Bill Elliott.
Car number 66, Cale Yarborough Racing colors with Dick Trickle, 49-year-old Rookie of the Year 1 year ago in NASCAR. The Daytona 500 race summary is sponsored by Quaker State. The big Q is one tough motor oil. After 250 miles, had 10 different leaders, 13 lead changes, not near a record in any of those departments, nor in speed at 154 miles an hour. We've had 2 cautions for 12 laps, and 4 cars are out of the race. Here are those that have retired from competition. We had a 4-car crunch early, and from that, Parsons and Alexander retired in lap 42. Ken Schrader had problems after making 2 valiant runs from the rear, and Phil Barkdahl has retired as well. One of the major moments in the early going, Richard Petty cutting a tire down, losing control, but not losing control. The car was out of control. He gathered it up, never got it in the wall, and he is able to continue in the event.
Now you notice Rob Moroso was involved in the 4-car accident a little later, and we didn't have his name up there as being out of the race. He's back in the race now. They made repairs on his car number 20, and he's back out there running.
The leader at the present time is car number 3, Dale Earnhardt. But the man who came across the line as they were dipping into the pits for fuel at the halfway point was car number 33, Harry Gant. And Gant collected the $10,000 prize for leading at halfway.
The only lap Harry Gant has led all day worth 10 grand.
And then he did it across the start, in the pits. He was coming down pit road when the halfway signal was being given, but the start-finish line goes all the way across the pit road, and so he led the lap.
If his pit had been before the starting stripe, he wouldn't have gotten it.
That's right.
Yeah.
We have some weather moving in. We had a cold front come through last night that gave us a lot of rain, and heaven knows they need it down here in Florida. And from NASCAR Control, there's a look at what's moving into this area. We're better than halfway, which would make the race official in case it had to be terminated by showers. But right now, it looks like we're going to go the distance. Let's go to Mike Joy.
Ken, Lake Speed was leading this race when he ran out of gas. He was trying to stretch it that extra half lap and take the halfway challenge money. He came up just short. This is one of the few teams that does not use a computer for fuel mileage. They keep all of their lap times and predict when they'll make their pit stops on paper. Here's David Hobbs.
Well, I'm in the pits with one of the most incredible people probably in the whole race ground today, and that is Rick Hendrick, whose cars were on the front row today and last year. And your very first trip to Daytona itself was only in 1983. Where do you go to next?
I don't know. I'm hoping we were going to go to victory lane today with one of our cars. It's a long race, and Schrader's out of it now, but you know, they're running good, and we always like to do well down here. We've had a lot of tremendous success. This is a place that we want to always do well. It's a Super Bowl of our sport.
Well, first and second last year, Ken Schrader made an amazing run to the front. What did you think of that? Did you expect it?
Well, you know, we told him to get to the front as quick as he could, but be careful. And I've never seen a car come through the pack, especially since we've been running the restrictor plate as well as that car did. Kenny did a heck of a job of driving, and just a credit to the setup and the car with the backup car to come to the front in 20-some laps. So, and he was just taking it easy when we had a failure, but that's racing.
Well, unlike most owners down here, you've got two more shots in the locker. You've got Ricky Rudd and Darrell Waltrip. Can either of those two guys win this race yet?
Darrell is getting comfortable. He's adjusting the car. He feels okay. Ricky's really happy with his car. He's been running in the top 10 all day, and they're just waiting to get him right there at the end. There's no sense in going out there racing right now as hard as you can go. So we got our hopes up, and we're going to run them hard there all day.
Well, you've sort of started to take over NASCAR, front row twice in a row. Any other plans after NASCAR days?
Not right now. We want to win the championship this year. We're working awful hard towards that goal. You know, all the teams are doing well, and we're just excited about what we've got to look forward to this year. We've had a great year last year. We're off to a good start. So we're just going to try to do the best we can with what we got.
Okay, well, that's Rick Hendrick, a very powerful man in NASCAR circles, but a bit disappointed today. Ken?
The second place battle is where the story is right now. There lies Derek Cope in the Whitcomb car. Number 10, Terry Labonte there, Jeff Bodine, Rick Wilson, all in the mix. Lapping number 42, Kyle Petty, the Felix Sabetta's car on the bottom of the racetrack. Here's Mark Martin's number 6 that was line 6. He tries to move beneath Rick Wilson. Rick tagging along with his old buddy AJ.
It had to be the halfway mark before Rusty Wallace became a factor, and he's moved into the top 10, the defending national champion. Here he is taking a look on the track there with the champion, Rusty Wallace, into the main straightaway. That's Dick Trickle right in front of him in the number 66 Trop Arctic car.
They're running 8th and 9th now. Trickle running in the 8th position, Rusty running in 9th.
And Joe Ruttman, a lap car just on the bottom there as they approach turn number 1.
But Dale Earnhardt has pulled out to about a 10-second lead over Derek Cope, who is running in 2nd place.
This is remarkable, the performance of Earnhardt's car. 10 seconds is an unheard of lead here these days.
Now, looks like Atlanta at the end of the season. Richard Petty is back on pit road. Atlanta last year, final race, Earnhardt just ground everybody down before he won that 500.
Petty came in a little bit crossways. He was about to lose it coming into the pits and didn't get into the pits quite as straight as he would like to have, but this is an unscheduled pit stop for Petty. Right side tires, maybe going around for left side too.
Again, the King had trouble here, cut a tire down in turn 1. He did a masterful job of keeping it out of the wall and able to continue.
You know, one of the things that just puzzles me, always will puzzle me, is why it is when one of these cars has a soft tire, the driver nor the crew can tell which one it is, and they have to change all 4. Why is that, Ned?
Well, it's very difficult at these speeds because on the high banks of a track like this, there's so much pressure on each tire, it's difficult to tell. You can tell that one is down, the car will get loose, but it's very difficult to tell which tire it is.
Dale Earnhardt continues to blitz him here in the Daytona 500, looking for his first win in the Great American Race. Well, here are the standings after 270 of 500 miles with Earnhardt out in front. Derek Cope in the Whitcomb Racing Stable car just having a wonderful day. Jeff Bodine line 3rd. Labonte is 4th with his new team. And the Jackson brothers are going to be happy about his run. In the second 5, Rusty Wallace found himself 9th after 270 miles with Mike Waltrip rounding out that top 10.
It's the first time we've seen Michael in the top 10, but he's had a good steady run so far here today. Running 11th is the Bobby Hillen car. Bill Elliott is 12th, Morgan Shepherd 13th, and Neil Bonney 14th, Jimmy Spencer 15th.
And there you see the number 66 car followed by 27 and 30, 8, 9, and 10 right there. Dick Trickle for Cale Yarborough Racing colors. Stays up in the top 10 at the present time. Tough race driver. He looked really good in the 125 milers, Chris.
Oh, that he did. You know, he won Rookie of the Year honors even at his age, and he gets an extra $1,000. Every race he runs this year, it's a 29 race schedule, so that's $29,000 for Dick Trickle. He's won over 1,000 races in his career, and most of those races never paid 1,000 or more to win.
One of the interesting things that Trickle said the other day was, says, you know, in the old days, I ran the rookie meetings. I ran the rookie meetings for Alan Kulwicki and Rusty Wallace and all those, because when I came to Winston Cup a year ago, they ran my rookie meetings. Let's go to Mike Joy.
Ken, there's good reason why these cars are up front. Fast pit stops under the green flag, and they're getting faster. Modified racer George Brunhosel builds this jack. It's made out of all aluminum, and it weighs only 35 pounds with the handle, half what the previous garage jacks used. You're familiar with the way that they glue the lug nuts onto the wheels, so they're right there, ready to be hammered home. Well, here's what's next. Ray and Ron Garuti up in Connecticut manufacture a wheel with the lug nuts held on by spring tension. You can't lose one. That's an important safety factor. They're using it now on the short tracks, and they'll be testing it soon with Winston Cup cars. It'll make these pit stops even quicker. Let's go to Dave Despain.
And Mike, we've slipped behind pit road for just a moment and inside 190-mile-per-hour video game. We're in the broadcast sports technology trailer where we're controlling the in-car cameras, 10 in all today. A staff of 5 technicians have mounted and maintained the cameras. The signal goes from the camera to a helicopter high over the speedway, then back down to the broadcast center. The cameras themselves are controlled by the video master here, and I want to ask George Graffio, first of all, is this a lot of fun?
Fun. You know, I have 2 children, and they have Sega Genesis and Nintendo, and by far, this is the best video game ever.
Is that how you practice? You practice at home in your living room?
Oh, every night. We're home, we're playing Nintendo, we're playing Mario Brothers, and now we're playing Facecam. And if you're ready, I'll show you how it works. Basically, you press this button here, and with a small button, you have Facecam. And here you have Mark Martin behind the wheel. And back again, you press another button, and here you have bumper. This is bumper cam, and the output of Mark Martin's back of his car. With another small push of the finger, we have, again, front over his shoulder.
And that's when your joystick comes into play, which is a lot like video games, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you could basically go 360 degrees. Here we go. 360, coming right back, and there we are.
About how much does all this equipment in the car weigh? How much are we talking about for the guys to haul around?
I think basically it has to be less than 20 pounds. I mean, I think I could be wrong, could be more or less, but 20 pounds is basically it.
Point is, the technology's come a long way over the years, hasn't it?
Oh, without a doubt. If you remember the first time we done this in 1981, I think we just had 1 static camera, and now we can rotate 360 degrees. We have an output of 3 different cameras in 1 car. I think we've come a long way.
If you like the pictures, here's the guys who make it possible. Let's go back topside and see Mark Martin pit.
He's running in 6th position. You see behind him Richard Petty running several laps down. Dave Marcus in his 23rd Daytona 500.
But Mark Martin's pit crew is out on pit road with the signboard ready to bring him in. We'll see if he does come in the next time around.
Not that lap.
You can see there is the man out with the pit board.
Remember, he has fallen back to 10th now. Up to 9th has moved Michael Waltrip. To 8th is the Rusty Wallace car.
You know, it's interesting. He's coming in on lap 118. 120 is 300 miles. Last year in the firecracker race, he had it 1, except he ran out of fuel. Now, these cars, under certain circumstances, can get 100 miles out of a tank full. He's coming in a little short of 100 miles required. Be 1 lap short.
Well, they can get actually more than that now.
Yeah.
There's 125s. We saw them go that 125-mile distance with several cars this year.
So maybe Mark Martin can make it on 1 stop after this.
And as we watch Mark Martin, A.J. Foyt has gone into the garage area.
Let's take 1 more lap with Mark Martin here. This incredible picture out of his automobile. Here are positions 1 through 6. Earnhardt staying in front and continuing to develop that lead.
More than 12 seconds now.
Atlanta replay from 1989 when he just bulldozed the field.
A.J. Foyt has gone back to the garage, we're sorry to report. You know, it's been 18 years since A.J. won one of these races. 18 years, and not today for A.J.
Oldsmobile colors of A.J. Foyt out of it. Here's number 9, Bill Elliott, scooting around and picking up a spot. That'll move Martin out another position. It moves Bill Elliott up to 11th. It keeps Mark Martin in 12th. And we are currently showing 21 cars remaining in the lead lap of this 500 after we've run more than half the distance. That's amazing.
Yes, it really is. But we see that a lot in the restrictor plate, when they run the restrictor plates. And Ken, I wonder if Mark Martin has radio communication with his crew, because that man stayed out there on pit road for about 4 laps with the board ready to bring Mark in, and he just keeps circling the racetrack. I wonder if they, well, for something from the pits. Let's go to Mike Joy.
Well, Mark Martin's team was out there with the pit board. That was Troy Martin with a signboard. Last time they only got those 2 tires, and they thought really they needed 4. Martin says the handle is going away. Then he thought he could ride it a while, and now they put the wrenches down for the moment, but they're ready in case he loses too much ground. They'll have to bring him in to keep from losing a lap.
Now watch Mark Martin at the wheel here. Watch his eyes, how he looks up at the mirror. So many times he constantly monitors that mirror. You can see the whites of his eyes as he looks up to see who's behind him.
Now he was talking to his radio, to his crew, says, I'm coming in. He gave the signal to the car behind him, so evidently he is coming in now.
Let's follow Mark Martin in car number 6. He's been a serious contender thus far, staying up in this lead lap.
He may have trouble, Ken. He pitted only 28 laps ago. So he's coming in awfully early.
Well, he didn't come in that time. Yeah, I thought he was giving a signal to the car behind him that he was coming in.
Let's go to David Hobbs.
Well, just to go on what Ned and Chris said a few minutes ago about drivers not knowing when they've got a flat tire and which one it is. Well, the thing is that these radial tires have such incredibly stiff sidewalls. I mean, they really are very, very stiff. And doing a couple of 100 miles an hour, the centrifugal force means that these tires retain their exact blown-up shape. And the only thing that happens is as soon as you hit the banking or any other corner, the tire that is loaded and is flat ultimately, of course, deflects. Now, there is a safety thing that's coming out. Bill Elliott's car has on board an infrared gauge that reads the temperature of the tire across the shoulder. This is exactly the same as those guys, the Goodyear guys, when you come into the pits, they stick the needle in and take the temperature of the tires. Well, Bill Elliott can read the temperature of his tires all the time he's going. Now, NASCAR have mandated that he can only do that for safety reasons, to tell if the tire's going down, because obviously it'll suddenly start to get hot. And in Europe, Jaguar have been using a device that tells you when the pressure is dropping in the tire. And I'm sure that these are things that we'll see introduced very soon on all race cars in the form of safety. Ken?
Still waiting on Mark Martin to see if he is going to draw in here. Here's that battle that continues for second place. 8-second interval by which Earnhardt leads over the red and white car number 10, Derek Cope. Then number 11, Bodine in the Junior Johnson Ford runs third. Rick Wilson's Oldsmobile, number 75, the yellow car, is in fourth. In fifth is Ricky Rudd's Chevrolet, and 6 is Terry Labonte, with 7th Rusty Wallace, 8th Mike Waltrip. This man, Dale Earnhardt, may have a new title, the Dominator in the Daytona 500. He now leads by better than 12 seconds. There's the interval back to that flock of cars running for second, third, fourth positions. Derek Cope, Jeff Bodine, Rick Wilson. And then behind them you see the number 5 car. That's Ricky Rudd, and that yellow machine that is running in the 5th position. Terry Labonte's machine is running in 6th, just behind that group. Further back in the field, you see in 7th Mike Waltrip's number 30 car. In 8th is Rusty Wallace, 9th is Bobby Hillen, and 10th is Dick Trickle. Now you see the yellow car number 5 there, and then that black machine. That's the car of Ricky Rudd in 5th, and that black car is the Jackson brothers number 1, and they're closing up Ricky Rudd and Terry Labonte on this trio that run 2, 3, and 4 in the race.
Yeah, those are your 2nd through 6th place cars. You can see Terry Labonte in the picture there just a moment ago. Now, Mark Martin did make his pit stop while we were away on the commercial break. He has gone a lap down. We're riding with Mark Martin there at the moment, but he is a lap down. He changed all 4 tires on his Ford.
Here's Mike Joy.
Well, if there was a gas gauge in Mark Martin's car, it would read full, and a tire gauge, it would read new. Jack Roush again playing the percentages before they put on fuel only. Then then they got just 2 tires, and they found the car just wasn't working. So before they got further and further behind, they had to come in and take on 4, and that has put them down. Let's go to David Hobbs.
Well, I'm with A.J. Foyt in his pit. A.J., you quit the race. What happened?
Well, actually, the heat, and I had a new uniform. I had a brand new helmet, and I guess the glue that was in it just got me completely drunk. And right now, I don't think the average person can smell it 5 minutes. You want to smell it?
Yeah, I can smell it okay. Otherwise, the car was running good.
It was running pretty good. We had to draft all day, but I just got so dizzy there that I felt like I was going to injure myself or somebody else, so I just had to quit. And I just can't. I don't know how people can take dope and drive, because you're talking about a drunk. I was drunk the last 20 laps, and I figured park it before I hurt myself or somebody else.
How many more times are we going to see you back here at the Daytona 500?
Well, I hope we come back at least a couple times, but, you know, we've had our luck. We've won about 3 of the big races here. We're happy, and we're running good today. Started off bad here when we got here, and we run good in the 125-miler, and we was running good today till we had a problem on one of the pit stops. Just one of them things. We had a, you know...
Yeah, well, that's tough luck, A.J. Thanks very much. And back to you, Ken. A.J. out with fumes.
Poor A.J. came unglued here today.
I'll tell you, that's the first time that I've ever heard, and it was very nice to hear him be so honest about what the reason was, but I've never heard of that being given as a reason for a driver being out of a race.
It's a strange one.
Somebody at W.C. Fields would have said somebody left the cork out of his lunch.
Dale Earnhardt, number 3, stays up in front, about to lap Jimmy Means, hovering overhead. That Goodyear blimp Enterprise giving us these pictures of the Daytona 500. Earnhardt's lead, incredible. He's led 100 of 126 laps. Dale Earnhardt running slowly only because he just pitted car number 3. He's just come out of the pits. He's into the back straightaway, picking up speed in that machine, and it's given Jeff Bodine the lead with Rick Wilson, Ricky Rudd, and that crowd on the backstretch at the present time.
Because Derek Cope made a pit stop also.
Dave Despain is with the man making the call on Earnhardt's car, Richard Childress.
And Childress still checking with his driver to make sure everything went smoothly. A nice pit stop. Are you happy with the way it turned out?
Yeah, it looked real good and clean. You know, we wanted to do 4 tires, not take no chance, you know, to get the car back, get the stagger all back like we wanted. We had a 13-second lead, so we was able to do it.
My question is, how much do you want to lead this race by? How are you determining how far out there you want to run, how hard to run the car?
Well, we wanted to get about 12 seconds on them then to do a 4 tire and be real safe in case they done 2, but we want to lead the last lap.
Are you going to continue to press for that big lead from here, or are you going to lay back a little?
Yeah, we're going to, you know, we just run the same pace all day. That's our plan.
That pace has been right around 48 seconds, high 47s when he was clear of traffic. It built a huge lead before the pit stop. Let's see what Childress man can do now with a fresh horse.
Dale Earnhardt's pit stop, though, was 23.9 seconds for the 4 tires. Well, Derek Cope's stop, he got 2 tires in 15.5 seconds. The interesting thing to me is the timing of the stop. Earnhardt is going to have to make 1 more stop for fuel before this race gets a checkered flag.
Wilson, Marlin, Michael Waltrip, Dick Trickle, Neil Bonnet, all making green flag stops. Jimmy Means, Lake Speed at this point. Jeff Bodine's number 11 is your leader. And number 5, Ricky Rudd, now takes over in 2nd spot. 3rd, number 1, Terry Labonte. Front 3, the 4th car would become Rusty Wallace. Remember, he started way back on this field, Chris, and he's developed himself a contender now. Took his time.
You know, his drive has not been the typical Wallace swashbuckling, wall-to-wall, hard-charging drive. He's been very consistent, and he's doing extremely well up there in 5th place with 150 miles to go.
And he started 38th on the field. These are green flag stops. Earnhardt willing to give up that lead for that 4-tire change. This is the battle for the lead. And here's Rudd alongside Jeff Bodine and going for it. The Ford on the inside, the Chevy on the outside.
And Rudd makes it look relatively easy there. Both of those drivers will have pit stops coming up here very shortly as well.
You know, there's only been 2 caution flags so far at the Pure since 1975 when they had 3. But 3 of the first 4 Daytona 500s were run with no yellow flag.
Here's number 5, Ricky Rudd, now out in front, and Rusty Wallace, who's carved his way up through the field. He's come in for fuel now. He's on pit road.
This is your front three cars. Ricky Rudd in car number 5, Jeff Bodine in car number 11, and Terry Labonte in car number 1.
Looks to me like number 5, Ricky Rudd's getting ready. He ran that car out of fuel in a 125-mile qualifier, and he's diving onto pit road. Here's Rusty Wallace pulling back on the track after he stopped for fuel and rubber.
And he's already has it up in third gear as he goes on to the banking now as he heads into the turn.
139 laps are complete as they make these stops of the 200 in the 500-mile race. Mike Joy.
Here's Ricky Rudd in for his stop, and they're doing it a little different. Waddell Wilson's team, not right but left side tires for Rudd's car to adjust the stagger that way. They changed the rights last time. They changed the tires quickly. Then they have to wait for that final bit of gas to dribble down, and then Rudd is away.
And as he comes out, car number 1, Terry Labonte has just slipped under number 11. And Terry Labonte went sideways.
Boy, he really did get sideways.
Whoa. Hold on.
He did a good job of bringing it back in. Jeff Bodine now coming down pit road. For his pit stop, we'll watch him come in. Shorty Edwards out there with the pit board. Brave souls, those that goes out there with that pit board, but Shorty stays right there with him. And of course he comes around to clean the grill off the car while they change the right side tires and fill it up with gas.
Sooner or later you take that job, you do get upended. You become a hood ornament.
Yeah, I said right side tires there too, like the car number 5 changed left side tires. Now remember the last time they changed right side, so this time they changed left side tires.
Pretty good pit time, 14.5 seconds. Yet all of the contenders that are stopping now will have to stop at least one more time before this race is over.
Let's take a look from inside one of the cars as we watch what happened to Terry Labonte. This is Bodine's pictures of car number 1.
Labonte, as he started off at turn 4, the back end broke loose, but he did a great job of saving that car.
Well, what about the driver in Bodine's position? You're watching this happen directly in front of you.
He was very, very cautious at that time as we look at it from another angle as the back end gets loose, and Bodine, I'm sure, that backed off this side. Well, not much. He's coming up on him, but he sees that Terry apparently is going to get it straightened out, so he just barrels on around.
Terry Labonte's number 1. The one thing you don't want to do is overcorrect. Here's Mike Joy.
Tim Brewer is crew chief for Jeff Bodine. Tim, you were in not that long ago for 4 tires, and you're right back in for left.
Well, Earnhardt seems to have a slight advantage over us, as you can probably see, so we're going to have to change up a little bit. See if we can change the strategy in here and maybe get a little bit closer to him for the shootout here later on. It's one of those deals. We're going to stop and get gas, and he's going to stop and get gas, and we're going to let them 2 guys have at it, Mike.
If it comes down to a drag race, can you run with him?
He's awful strong.
And we'll see. Back upstairs.
142 laps are complete, and it's getting down to that time when gamblers play the long odds in the Great American Race. Terry Labonte, car number 1, leads at this moment. Bobby Hillin is second, and Earnhardt's back to third. Here is Jimmy Spencer's car on pit road that's been running up here with the leaders. And the one car that has been leading, car number 1, is in the pits. Terry Labonte. Here's Dave Despain.
Leader on pit road, Roger Fortney goes to the right front, Tony Lambert to the right rear as they clean the windshield and gas the car. Labonte trying to get in and out and salvage this lead, although that's going to be very difficult to do as they will go to a 4-tire stop. Gary Brooks going to the right side of the car now to jack it up. Ronnie Akoff finishing his fueling responsibilities ahead of the tires. That is all done, and now they're just waiting to get the tires on and out the door. 25.9 the time. Let's go to Mike Joy.
Mark Martin had left side tires, but that didn't improve the handling of his Ford enough. Now it's right side tires. They're checking things over, and Martin is waiting for a cold drink. It is hot inside the cockpit of that Ford. Steve Emile and Robert Pemberton with our pit cam working the right front, having a little extra time getting that right front wheel secured. Now they're all set, just waiting to drop the jack, finishing up on the right rear. Lengthy pit stop, excruciatingly long for Martin Martin. A miscue, and he goes away with 2 fresh tires.
And you can see that frustration on his face as he goes out of the pits. That was much longer than he wanted to be in there. And Mike, it looked like that they might have made a chassis adjustment on the right front before they put the right front tire on there. They were doing something under there, and when you make an adjustment on the right front spring, it has more effect on the chassis than any other spring around the car. Now, whether that's what they were doing, I don't know, but they did something under that right front, a little bit extra besides changing the tire.
It was almost 42 seconds in the pits. I was on the impression they weren't allowed to make those front-end adjustments.
Oh, yeah. Well, they can make the adjustments. They can't change springs. At one time, they could actually change springs, but they can't do that. But if they got the tire off, they can make that adjustment on there.
Well, that was a long, long stop. It's going to have to be a very beneficial adjustment for him to make up the lost time.
And here's the man now out in front, Bobby Hillen in car number 8. Harry Hyde prepared car for the Stavola brothers.
But he has yet to make a pit stop.
Man.
Bobby Hillen, Harry Hyde says there's 3 places to run in the race, with the good, or with the bad, or with the ugly out here. And from their starting point today, they really came out of meanness, and they've moved their way back up through the field. He says he doesn't like cars to start too far back in these races.
He's had a good run.
This team has a second car just for testing its truck and the crew. It's as though they were going racing, or they go to test tracks just to make sure the car is right for the track, and it looks now like it's paying off.
Let's take a look at the Budweiser leaderboard. After 350 miles, Terry Labonte was then leading with Bobby Hillen in second, Earnhardt third. Earnhardt's now up to second. Darrell Waltrip taking a look at that second 5. Bill Elliott still in there. We have 11 cars in the lead lap on our Budweiser scoreboard. And at that point, the 11th car was being shown as Wallace, with Wilson and number 5 Ricky Rudd in those tail end positions.
We now have perhaps a sleeper on our hands. Bobby Hillen may be able to make it to the checkered flag on the onboard fuel. He's the only one on the track right now that can do that.
He's in the pits right now.
Trouble.
Harry Hyde, the man who has built this team into a contender, waits with the signboard. His young driver, Bobby Hillen, comes down pit road, overshoots the pit. Hyde is known for bringing along young talent, and he gave this man his first super speedway win. As they clean the windshield, Hyde's team go to work. It's a crew that he's had around him for years, and they are going to go to the right side, then come back to change the left side tires. Again, they will outlap the fueling will not take as long as the tire change, unlike a 2-tire stop. And the leader, Bobby Hillen, gives up the lead. The crew get their words. He's out in 25.9. Let's go to Mike Joel.
Well, Robert Pemberton is here. You can see he's wearing his Norman our CBS pit cam. You guys aren't having your usual fun day. What happened? What'd you do on that last pit stop?
Well, there's a header pipe dragging right now a little bit. It's not handling real good, and we're working on it as hard as we can. Something happened about 60 laps ago. We've been running real good, and all of a sudden it's just super loose, and we can't seem to do anything to fix it.
What adjustment did you make on the right front to try to fix the handling?
Mainly we're looking for a problem, something that was broke, and making the car handle as bad as it is. So far we haven't found anything.
They're perplexed here in the Mark Martin pit.
The man who's perplexing everyone here is this man, the man in black, Dale Earnhardt, back in command of the Daytona 500 with 151 laps complete. This Daytona 500 race summary is sponsored by Quaker State. The Big Q is one tough motor oil. After 375 miles, 13 different leaders, 21 lead changes, and they're averaging 164 miles an hour with a couple of cautions for 12 laps. 7 cars have officially retired from the 32nd annual Daytona 500. Out of the race, Phil Parsons out early, Mike Alexander, Ken Schrader, who twice came up through the field, then had his engine expire. Phil Barkdahl is gone. Young Mr. Horton, who won the ARCA race a week ago, car number 80, it's gone away. And A.J. Foyt, he had smelling salts problems out here, so reported. The glue in his helmet gave him a little trouble. Robbie Moroso has brought his car back to the garage area once again, the 21-year-old rookie. And here is the leader, car number 3, Earnhardt.
And right now, Earnhardt has been following Dick Trickle for 3 laps, unable to pass.
And this Trickle is running on the tail end of the lead lap on our latest rundown at 150 laps. Car number 66, Earnhardt, was being shown, or rather number 66, Trickle, was being shown in 13th place on the end of the lead lap of Mr. Earnhardt.
I think this is a new conservatism Dale Earnhardt is showing us here. He wouldn't wait ordinarily to pass somebody, but he's sort of tiptoeing behind Dick Trickle.
And was critical of Trickle in the 125-mile qualifier for using up a lot of racetrack.
Well, of course, Trickle was leading the race at that time, and Earnhardt had made a pit stop and came up on him and was not able to get around him for quite a while because Trickle knows how to use a racetrack and is doing a good job of it right now. Now, also, Trickle put on 4 new tires, as Earnhardt did on their last pit stop, but Earnhardt made his pit stop about 12 laps before Trickle did, and so Trickle's tires are much fresher than Earnhardt's.
Now the second place car, there it is, Whitcomb Racing Stable from New England. Derek Cope from Spanaway, Washington, the driver. And here you see the third place car, number 11, Jeff Bodine, in that Junior Johnson prepared Ford. That car for 2 straight years has won a 125-mile qualifier.
Well, we said that Earnhardt would have to make 1 more pit stop, most of them, excepting maybe Bobby Hillen. I think he's the only one that might be able to go the distance from here. Here's a projection. His last pit stop was made on lap 134. He's averaging about 49 laps per tank of fuel, so he'll have to stop again at about lap 183. That's 17 laps short of the finish.
Right now, he's got a 17-second edge on the second place car, Derek Cope.
Of course,
Alan Kowicki pitting right now.
That fellow really enjoying this race, isn't he?
Yeah. Listening on the radio. Just had his eyes closed and that so he could really focus on it.
Yeah, right. Kowicki not having one of his better days, not as good a day as he had here last year. 4-tire change, involved in a spin earlier in the race, but came back out, kept going.
CBS would like to thank Junior Johnson and his great race team, the Hendrick Motorsports folks, Roush Racing, and Raymond Beadle, Blue Max, for the assistance today with the in-car cameras in this event. Here you see that difference once again, as Trickle does not want to go a lap down to Earnhardt. He really hangs it right in there.
And Earnhardt not taking any chances whatsoever. He's running a good, comfortable speed. Maybe he's running as fast as he wants to, and so he's just following Trickle around. He's certainly conserving some fuel by following him around, but he has another pit stop. He can't conserve enough fuel that he can go the balance of the race.
And it's a replay exactly of what we saw in Atlanta, Georgia, the last race.
Yeah.
Just Earnhardt dominating, running the race just about as he wants to here. More of the 500 in a moment. We're back with you at the Daytona International Speedway, taking a look at the leaderboard. After 398 of the 500 miles have been registered, as Earnhardt continues to blast through the field, run it his way and nobody else's. Derek Cope is standing second. Jeff Bodine is in third. Ricky Rudd is in fourth. Rusty Wallace in fifth. And Rick Wilson is in sixth. And this car, number 3, looks as bulletproof. Oh, look at car number 66 again, holding there from this great shot from the Goodyear blimp. Trickle trying to stay in that lead lap, and Earnhardt not taking any chances.
Now this will be a position. Brett Bodine in the green car, the Kenny Bernstein car number 26, is a position for Trickle. Trickle running 13th, Bodine running in the 12th position. So he is letting Earnhardt push him up there. With them two working together is helping to catch Brett Bodine.
Despite the fact that Earnhardt has been sitting behind Dick Trickle, look at it, here he's going to get by him on the inside after all these laps. He has stretched his advantage over Derek Cope from 17 to 20 seconds, and there he's waited long, maybe 10 or 12 laps, to make that pass and put Dick Trickle in car 66 1 lap down.
As well as Bodine going down a lap, and Trickle moves into the 12th spot. Bodine falls to 13th as we watch them coming through the tri-oval area right in front of the pit area here into the turn 1.
Now there are 11 cars left in the lead lap. A moment ago when we gave a rundown, we said there were 11 cars in the lead lap, but that was during green flag pit stop, so we had a jumbling there for a little while, but now there are 11 cars in the lead lap. Neil Bonney currently running in the 11th position, so he's the last car on the lead lap. Michael Waltrip running 10th, Morgan Shepherd 9th.
What makes this car, this number 3, seemingly so bulletproof?
I'll tell you, they have just been so great over the year, Richard Childress and his team, in putting together a car. They don't leave any stone unturned when they're building a car and preparing it for each individual race. They work together so well.
If you wonder what all these drivers, they're great families here. wonder what they do with the kids and all of that during the race. David Hobbs can give us some insight.
Well, more and more of these NASCAR drivers relax in these luxurious motorhomes before and during the race. And relaxing in here is one Jessica Waltrip. Jessica, have you been watching your father on the TV? No, not really. What's your car? What's Daddy's car number? What does he drive?
TIDE.
TIDE, Tide. Well, she's got that bit right. This kid's learning real fast. That's how they can afford these motorhomes in the first place. Ken.
There is the 17 of Darrell Waltrip. Not his best day in this 500 at all. He is being shown a lap down in 17th position, the defending 500-mile champion here behind Dave Marcus.
Yeah, he just hasn't had a good day. That car, he dropped back in the very early part of the race. They made some adjustments on it, but it just never really got it up to going. And you would wonder, you know, a year ago he was up there, a major force. He came home to win the Daytona 500. And you said, well, why can't he do it again? Well, things change. You know, the racetrack's a little bit different this year, and competition is a little bit different here and there, and they're running a 16th-inch carburetor restrictor plate. Last year they had a 1-inch carburetor restrictor plate, although I don't think that it's a lack of horsepower that Waltrip is experiencing. I think they just missed the chassis setup. And two, the tires that they're running here today are a little harder rubber compound than what they ran here a year ago. So, you know, there's a number of factors that come into play every time they go from one racetrack to another, or from one year to the next.
Car number 17 holding down that position out of the lead lap. Not where he likes to be in a 500-mile race, 400-lap race, 10-lap race. He wants to be right up on top.
This CBS Sports Special, the Daytona 500, is sponsored by the Die Hard Battery. Now with more power when you need it most. And by Valvoline, the high-performance motor oil company. People who know use Valvoline.
Into the Daytona 500.
Leaderboard, 420 of 500 miles complete. The man in black is being a Darth Vader here today in this Daytona 500. Dale Earnhardt commanding. Cope staying second. Great performance by him. Jeff Bodine, the 86 winner, is third. Ricky Rudd right there in fourth. Bill Elliott is in fifth. And looking further back, defending Winston Cup champion Rusty Wallace stays in the lead, lap in sixth. Michael Waltrip is having a very good day, and Morgan Shepherd's been overlooked in his ride with that Bud Moore team, doing a terrific job. There have been 19 different 500 winners in the 31 previous races, and these people are looking on to see if there will be a 20th today, and a guy named Earnhardt.
You know, the battle for victory by a manufacturer, Ford holds the lead with 7 victories, and Chevy is second with 6. It could tie it if Earnhardt wins today, making it 7-all between Ford and Chevrolet. And for Earnhardt, this is his 12th time in the 500.
Let's take a look at how this field is assembled as we get down toward the finish. Earnhardt lapping Larry Pearson coming out of turn 4 is most definitely in command of this race. On the backstretch, there you find the second place car. That is number 10, Derek Cope, in second position with his Chevrolet.
Running all alone.
The third position is car number 11. That's Jeff Bodine in the Junior Johnson Ford. There's Darrell Waltrip with him.
Of course, Darrell Waltrip is 2 laps down. Dave Marcus in car number 71. They're putting a lap on Sterling Marlin, not in car number 94.
There you see the next car back, fourth position, yellow and white car, Ricky Rudd. He is maintaining fourth position on the field. And following him is car number 9. Bill Elliott is being shown in 5th place today.
And Bill Elliott, his mother Mildred in the hospital up in Atlanta. We want to say hello to her and Bill's dad George, who are watching the race this afternoon and certainly sitting there cheering Bill on. Having a good run here, folks, and certainly we want to wish Mildred a speedy recovery. She's been in the hospital since last November, and our prayers and best wishes go out to her and hope that she will continue to improve. And Ken, she has shown improvement in recent weeks. You and I both talked to George Elliott this morning, and it was good to hear that Mrs. Elliott is steadily improving.
And George said he thought that Earnhardt was going to be tough. Let's go to Mike Joy.
Well, one spot behind Bill Elliott is Rusty Wallace, wearing new colors this year. We've not been in the pits of the Winston Cup champ today, but he's in 6th place, and that's one better than he's ever finished in the 500. In fact, his average finish here is 21st. Harold Elliott, for a team that came down here without a lot of horsepower, you folks are hanging on pretty well.
Well, you know, we had some problems, Mike, with the car and the engine. It was off a little bit on both ends. It just took us a while to get it sorted out. You know, it's a new car, and we had a lot more work to do than we realized. We came down the track, it changed after the 24-hour race, and our car had loosened up, and, well, we got it fixed, and we're hanging on. But I tell you, if anybody's going to beat Earnhardt today, they're going to shoot his tires out.
That may well be. Let's go to Dave Despain.
We're down here with the guys who are looking out for snipers with a 27-second lead. That's about all that can stop them. The team of Dale Earnhardt. And do they look confident? Do they look secure? Well, they do indeed. The only possible glitch is that last pit stop. They tell us it will come about lap 180, give or take a lap or two. And right alongside the youngster Derek Cope's crew gets ready to try to challenge this juggernaut.
Juggernaut it is, this car number 3. As we get down to the last 25 laps, 25 to go. Here in this 32nd annual Daytona 500 for $2 million. We saw this lead first being held by this man. Then Schrader came back to take it twice. His car went up in smoke, and it has been an Earnhardt story ever since. Some 21 laps remaining, and within 2 they expect Earnhardt to throw the game to the other side of the table to his pit crew, make that stop.
We're on lap 179 now.
Here he is, ready to lap car number 27, Rusty Wallace, the 6th place man, but no, he's pitting. There's the 6th place man, Rusty Wallace, and here's your leader in the key critical pit stop of the race, Dave Despain.
The man under the gun now is Chocolate Myers, the gas man for this outstanding team, and they say it'll be gas only. They go with the jack to the right side in case, but it appears they will not need the tires. He smoked them coming in, but they're confident the gas is in, and he is gone in 8.2 seconds. He should be able to get back out without losing the lead.
A lot of smoke as he came out.
Well, because he came in on the left front and on the rear tires as he went out. I'm surprised.
Yeah, of course, he locked the left front up when he came into the pits. Now, they needed to get that full can of fuel in there for him to be able to go the rest of the way. That is assuming that he was very close to out of gas. Let's go to the pits and Mike Joy.
Yeah, Ned, as Earnhardt came by here, that did not look like smoke coming from the tire on his car. We'll check it further now that he's back up to speed. Ricky Rudd is getting right side tires from Jeff Chandler and Joey Knuckles. Danny Mansford brought him around. Wait, that's a fast stop for Ricky Rudd. Here's Dave Despain.
Let's find out about the gas situation. Danny Chocolate Myers fuels the car. Danny, did you get her all in there?
Yeah, we're full. We're okay.
You're okay all the way to the finish. How much are you going to win this thing by?
20 seconds.
Is there any other problem with that car?
Nah, if it goes like it's been going all day, we shouldn't have any problems.
He lit up the tires coming in, but they think it will not be a problem. The car is filled with gas, or at least got the entire can they needed, and should be able to go the distance.
Well, Dave, he just retook the lead after making a pit stop. Derek Cope had taken the lead as Earnhardt got back up to speed. Earnhardt has just passed Derek Cope and has taken over the lead once again. Here's his wife, Teresa, looking on and anticipating a big victory, his first ever Daytona 500 victory here. Boy, that car is awesome today.
Look at it pull away.
And Cope still has a pit stop to make.
Unbelievable, this Earnhardt performance. They've
And
been
here
burned
comes
before.
Cope.
Here is Cope coming in. This will move Bodine up into 2nd and Bill Elliott into 3rd.
The way Earnhardt is running, he could very easily lap the entire field. Dave Despain has something to say. Dave?
Derek Cope is on to pit road. He has started only 2 previous 500s. He's the 2nd place car here today. They'll go to the left side tires first. Buddy Parrott changes the front tire. Kevin Jurgen changes the rear. And this is their last shot to give Cope, this amazing youngster who didn't run last year's race, some attempt at Dale Earnhardt, the leader. We show at 13.77. Not a bad stop for 2 tires and fuel. Let's move in and talk to the crew chief here. This guy, Buddy Parrott, won a big race at Daytona. It happened 1984, Firecracker 400. Does that sound familiar? Richard Petty was his driver then. You got anything for Dale Earnhardt today?
Well, you know, Dale's been awful strong. I just wish we could maybe got a caution caution. They put on 4 tires earlier, and Dale's been real strong ever since he's been here. My hat's off to Keith Dorton. I'm telling you, automotive special engine today in this pure later Pontiac, and we had put Rain-X on that windshield right before we started, and this thing's really been slick all day.
Come what may, tell me about Derek Cope. You've won with Richard Petty here, but this youngster looks very impressive.
I'm going to tell you what, he's got a big, strong heart, and we're going to go a lot of places this year with him, and, you know, he's run real good. Bob Wickham's really providing everything for us to do it with, and we're just real happy about everything.
A veteran crew chief and a young driver writing quite a story in this Daytona 500.
In 1984, Cale Yarborough won this race back-to-back, second straight year. The man in second was Dale Earnhardt. Dale Earnhardt intends to fix things this year and win this race. This Daytona 500 race summary is sponsored by Quaker State. The Big Q, it's one tough motor oil. After 460 miles of the 32nd annual 500, 13 leaders, lead changes stand at 23. Average speed with 2 cautions thus far, reflecting 12 laps under yellow at 167 miles an hour. 7 cars of the 42 that started have officially retired from the event. And those are Phil Parsons, Mike Alexander, Ken Schrader, Bart Dahl, Horton out of this race, A.J. Foyt, and Robbie Moroso. All right. Let's go right to the Rusty Wallace story on pit road.
Again, he's pulling away after taking on gas only. Jeff Bodine did the same thing while we were in commercial. Junior Johnson's crew kicked up the rear spoiler on Bodine's crew to give it more angle, to give him more downforce, and to help him try and run down Dale Earnhardt.
Rusty Wallace overshot his pit just a moment ago. He had moved to second place. But now we'll see what the scores tell us about where he is.
Yeah, he overshot his pits by 2 pits, about 35 feet.
It's so hot out there, well over 85 degrees. Here's the shot from the Goodyear Blimp Enterprise of this record crowd gathered here at the Daytona International Speedway. It has been record crowds all week, dating back to last Sunday, even last Saturday for qualifying. Amazing the enthusiasm that is growing for Winston Cup racing, and CBS delighted to bring you the 500, and we'll be with you in Michigan this summer and for the Die Hard 500 at Talladega, Alabama at the end of July.
Now, these people we're seeing here, Ken, are the spotters for the driver. It's a second set of eyes for the drivers. If there's trouble up in front of them, they notify them. They normally look about a quarter of a lap ahead of their driver, and they have communication by 2-way radio, and they'll tell the driver what's going on. And in many cases, they're clocking the cars and letting the driver know how fast he's running, and also if he needs to change his line on the racetrack. Now, Dale Earnhardt doesn't need to change his line because, boy, he's had it right all day, it seems like.
I think they're saying fold the tent and pack the tools. Earnhardt's got everybody covered for just a moment, and it's Earnhardt in first, Labonte in second, Elliott third, Jeff Bodine in fourth. There's Terry Labonte, currently being shown in the second position. What a tremendous run for the Jackson brothers. And the Elliott stable now is being shown in third spot. David Hobbs is standing by over in the infield with the Earnhardt family as they get closer and closer to their first big one.
Well, I'm with Teresa and Taylor. Taylor's listening to the crew radio, and Teresa's very anxious to get over the pits. It looks like he might win this one. How nervous are you?
Well, I'm not nervous. I'm just anxious. We don't have far to go, but we've got to get there. It's not over till it's over.
Well, Dale's won just about everything else in NASCAR racing. How badly does he really want to win this race?
Well, I think immensely, like anybody, like me. So we just have to wait and see.
So right now, you're as anxious as he is to win this race.
I think so. I think so. Thank you.
Well, we're going to let you go over there now and get ready in that pits. And back to you, Ken, up in the tower.
Well, Dave, this is Ned Jarrett. You know, Teresa Earnhardt comes from a racing family. Her dad is Hal Houston, who drove race cars for himself at Hickory, North Carolina for many years. Tommy Houston, still a major force in Busch Grand National competition. 10 laps to go. And so she knows what racing's all about. She knows about the frustrations and heartaches and all of that. She knows what winning is all about because she comes from a winning racing family.
10 laps remaining. About 9 3/4 for this man. Dale Earnhardt in car number 3. Terry Labonte second, Bill Elliott third, getting to the finish. 193 laps are complete. We are under caution for the third time today. The reason was from the car that you just saw, car number 11, in trouble up in turn number 2. Here's Mike Joy quickly.
Ken, they'll change the right side tires at least. No, they're going all the way around. They may have flat spotted the tires after he spun, but he'll get back out for the run to the finish. Here's Dave Despain.
And Dale Earnhardt likewise will go with a 4-tire stop. They've already loosened the left sides as the crew come around to make that left side change. They now have the field on their heels, and they want everything that they can throw at them for what will be a 2 or 3 lap shootout at the end. After dominating all day, these guys have their back to the wall. Let's go back to Mike Joy.
The 5 car of Ricky Rudd slid in sideways. It was the only way he could get near his pit stall. They finished the left tire change and had to wait until everybody else moved before he could get away. That put him back in the running order and might spoil what had been a good run for Rudd.
8 cars in the lead lap. They will be bunched and ready to fight it out to decide the 500. Now let's look at what happened to bring out the caution flag.
Okay, we're riding with Jeff Bodine. With the race cam, and then you can see it start to spin around. He was looking at the infield when he should have been looking straight ahead. Of course, that's when he was spinning around, and you can see him fight the wheel. It was a 360, and then he kept going. So Jeff Bodine not hitting anything,
right where Richard Petty had spun earlier today. There may have been some oil laid down by car number 75, Rick Wilson, who had been running slowly for several laps. He had been down to the bottom of the track, but there was a time when he was up in the groove anyway. Yellow came out. 8 cars are together to decide the 500, and they're sorting themselves out, coming out of 4 right now, and there's 1 lap before there will be racing.
6 laps now. There's the number 75 car. If you notice, just before Bodine's car spun, you can see a car in the upper right-hand corner of the screen letting out a lot of smoke. It may be slippery over in that part of the track.
So here comes the field behind the pace car. 32nd annual Daytona 500. They always talk about over here how they used to organize great finishes by throwing a caution flag. I don't think that was the case here, Ned.
No, it was a justified caution flag because when Bodine spun, you didn't know how many cars were going to get into it, so they needed to warn the other cars, get them slowed down that were coming into that turn. Fortunately, he didn't hit anything or didn't hit another car, didn't hit the wall. But look at this traffic jam that we got here right now. And Dale Earnhardt is back in there pretty far, but with the NASCAR rules, he is able to move up on the outside. Derek Cope, let's say, is leading this race.
Here are some of the folks that have missed this 500. Neil Bonnet, 15 tries. Ricky Rudd, Terry Labonte, Schrader, Davey Allison, and you could name a whole lot more, including a guy named Ned Jarrett who won 50 races.
Sure could. I tried for a number of years myself. Came pretty close in 1963, ran out of gas with 2 laps to go.
Teresa Earnhardt looking on, a little anxious here now as it's a whole new game to decide this one.
Yeah, she didn't want that caution flag. Neither did Dale Earnhardt, Richard Childress, or any of his crew.
If they get the green flag next time around, it'll be a 5-lap dash to the checkered flag. Derek Cope is leading, and Bobby Hillin is second, and Dale Earnhardt is third. Terry Labonte is fourth, Bill Elliott fifth, and Ricky Rudd sixth, and Rusty Wallace seventh.
Jennifer Finney there, Derek Cope's girlfriend, looking a little anxious as he leads the field down. Cope in the Whitcomb Racing Stable car up in front as they get ready to sort out the 32nd 500. There's Bobby Hillins, number 8, right there in second spot. Dave Despain.
Bad news on the radio to Richard Childress. What did your driver, Dale Earnhardt, just tell you?
They said the 8 car rammed him in the left rear out there.
How bad is it? Any idea?
I don't know. He said he hit him real hard. I don't know.
You've got to come through a lot of traffic here. Are you still going to win this race?
Who knows? You know, we got 5 laps to go. I'll guarantee you Dale will be trying.
These guys are not happy. They've complained to the NASCAR officials. The contention is that Bobby Hillin hit Dale Earnhardt in the left rear under yellow. And when they go back green, he'll have a damaged race car. Let's go to Mike Joy.
No comment from the Hillin pits. Harry Hyde is on the radio trying to anticipate the flag and tell his driver to go and win his second Super Speedway 500-mile race.
5 laps to go. Hillin won at Talladega, Alabama, his only Winston Cup win. Car number 8 lies second. The black number 3, Earnhardt, third with 5 to go. 4 3/4.
Jeff Bodine right on his bumper. Bodine brought this caution flag out, but he's still running in the 4th position. Now Earnhardt trying to make a move on the inside of Hillen, taking over 2nd.
And brings Bodine with him. Derek Cope on the outside, down on the inside. A little crack in the windshield perhaps on the right side of car number 3. Earnhardt goes into 1st.
Yeah, he didn't waste any time. Evidently, that bump didn't hurt him. We didn't see anything there as we watched Teresa Earnhardt watch Dale Earnhardt come around. And Earnhardt still shows the dominance that he's shown here all day long.
That traffic behind Earnhardt is fulminated mercury. Anything could happen there. They're so close, so fast.
A snarl of cars just behind the leader. Down to 4. Earnhardt has separated himself as quickly as possible from the remainder of the field. Bodine, number 11, on the inside. On the outside, it is Bill Elliott. Elliott is up to 4th. They're showing Bodine as a lap down, Ned.
Oh, really?
Bodine, a lap down.
Okay, I didn't realize he lost a lap during that spin.
Pulling back up on Earnhardt comes Derek Cope in that red Chevrolet number 10.
And the car number 1 of Terry Labonte right in there running in the 3rd position.
Derek Cope has never finished better than 6th place in any of his racing starts. This will be his first top 5 finish. And look at him putting the pressure on Earnhardt.
It looks like that run that Ruttman made a few years ago in Lake Speed. Dave Despain.
Remarkable about the Cope performance is the fact that he's doing it on used tires. His crew chief, Buddy Parrott, elected to keep him out on that caution period to take the lead in the race. Earnhardt came in and got 4 tires, and nonetheless, Cope's been able to come up and race with him.
And here comes Terry Labonte. If the slingshot was ever called for, it would be this race today, but the carburetor plates have pretty much erased that possibility.
Here you see the number 5 car of Ricky Rudd. He's in the 6th position. Front 4, Elliott is hanging on to the tail of that draft. Bill Elliott, twice a winner, 85 and 87 right there. Jeff Bodine being recorded as a lap down, giving us these incredible pictures as they get ready to sort this one out. Number 3, Earnhardt in front, and Derek Cope driving the race of his career, stays in 2nd place. The Spanaway Washington campaigner moves in again on number 3, Earnhardt.
And look at it moving up here. That Purelator sponsored car, Purelator, is being sold now by its parent company because it doesn't fit in the scheme of things. And here it is running 2nd in the Daytona 500, maybe winning it.
The white flag coming down to Dale Earnhardt.
1 lap to go. Does anybody have anything left to cope with the man in black?
Here's what's going to happen. Maybe. I thought Terry Labonte was going to try to move down and take over 2nd place, and if he does, that'll just open it up for Earnhardt to move away. We'll see. Naturally, every one of them wants to gain a position, whether it's from 4th to 3rd or whatever, but if they do get side by side, it'll help Earnhardt.
This is the half a lap to go.
4-car shootout to decide it all. Dale Earnhardt.
Here comes Cope down on the inside. Earnhardt has problems.
Slopping back. Something is amiss. Here comes the field driving for the finish. And on the outside, it is car number 10, Derek Cope. Something amiss on the Earnhardt car. Coming to the line. It's Labonte pulling up, and an amazing finish. The Whitcomb Racing Team has won it.
Unbelievable.
It looked like Earnhardt had a tire go down maybe as he went into the turn. And Nicole crying a little bit.
Derek Cope's first top 5 finish, his first victory, comes in the Daytona 500. A remarkable day of sport.
Unbelievable. Bob Whitcomb, who brought a team out 3 years ago, had nothing but misfortune and bad luck. And Rick Hendrick, who gave a car to one driver today to be in this race, literally gave it to him just to get him out of here. Hut Strickland, after he was involved in that altercation. Now he's put some motors together for this team, and they've won the biggest race of all. It's a great win for the Northwest. When you think of the years that they've had drivers come down here from the Northwest to race, this is the first time they have ever tasted a victory in the Daytona 500. Look again at what happened.
Well, Earnhardt looked like he had things in command. All of a sudden, his Chevrolet just slows, and he goes up into the second groove. Something happened to that car. I guess the engine. I thought he had a tire go down, but I believe it was something else. He lost power. Cope took advantage of it. Here's Earnhardt coasting around. Cope comes on to win.
Terry Labonte will come home with a second-place finish. Bill Elliott in third. Let's go to Dave Despain.
Derek Cope still has a problem. He's on the radio to the crew chief, Buddy Parrott. What did he say?
You don't know where victory lane is.
Can you figure out how to navigate him in there?
You know what? It's really a wonderful deal. I tell you, we pitted. I came up here and pit beside Richard Childers today because I'm going to tell you what, they're a great crew, and they got a Chevrolet. And yesterday out in practice, I knew who we had to run with. I knew who we had to beat. We had the best car in practice, and we had to beat Dale Earnhardt, and we did today. And my hat's off to Richard and his crew and Kurt Schummerdine and all of them.
You raced him very hard right at the end, even though you didn't have the fresh tires. Did you have a shot at him if he hadn't had trouble?
Well, you walked up to me and asked me, did I have anything up my sleeve? And, you know, I just wanted to say that my hat's off to Goodyear also. We ran Goodyear tires today, almost 250 laps on the left side. So the engineer came up to me and said, buddy, you need to change them lefts. I said, I'm not going to change any tires.
A veteran crew chief guides his young driver to victory lane at Daytona. What a story.
Derek Cope, Spanaway, Washington, becomes the fourth driver to make the Daytona 500 his first career victory. You'll meet him in a moment.
Derek Cope. Well, maybe James Buster Douglas has won the Daytona 500 because coming here today, perhaps nobody gave this man a shot to be here in victory lane. Derek Cope, hop on down here, has won the Daytona 500. Can you believe it?
Absolutely not. I'll tell you what, you know, in my wildest dreams, you know, you always come down here with optimism, but, you know, this is the one that eludes everybody, and Darrell Waltrip did it last year, you know, for the first time in his career, and it is a pleasure to have the Pure Letter Chevrolet aluminum up front and take the win like this. It's a dream come true.
You played professional baseball. You came down here to race with virtually no money last year, and now you've won the biggest prize in all of this sport. Tell me about the pass for the lead.
Well, you know, Earnhardt was dominant all day long. There's no way I was going to get him. I was just trying to hold off Terry Labonte, but he blew a tire going in the last turn, and he did a heck of a job holding that car in line. I went to the bottom side and had the win, but I'll tell you, Dale was a dominant car, but that Pure Letter Chevrolet Alumna is number one in victory lane.
Derek, congratulations. Let's go to David Hobbs.
Bobby Hillen, Dale Earnhardt said on his radio that you bumped him during the caution. Did you do that?
I didn't think so. You know, he passed me before. He's still under the caution, and NASCAR told me to go back around him, and I'm not sure if he knew what to do, so he was keeping me back there, and it was just real confusing. I finally got by him, but he went right back by me without any trouble. I was just trying to get the best position we could, and the car ran good. We didn't get any tires the last pit stop. That hurt us, and we got banged around a little bit, but it was a pretty good finish for the Snickers car.
Well, you nearly won the 500, but not this year. Ken, you got more for us up in the top.
1 year ago, Bob Whitcomb nearly disbanded his team. They had run out of money. There was no hope left. But he stuck with it, and now he has won the Great American Race with Derek Cope as driver. What a story here. Derek Cope, as we look at these standings, wanted to be a baseball player, grew up in San Diego, California, played at Whitman College, suffered a knee injury, and it ended his baseball career. And at 21 years of age, he had never been near a race car. His brother had one. He tried it. He was hooked, and he's been with it ever since. Let's go to David Hobbs.
Dale, what the heck happened on the last lap?
We run over some debris and cut a right rear tire down, David. Just a quarter of a lap away from victory. Not much you could do about it.
I was sitting with your wife, and it was absolute devastation in your motorhome. We're all real sorry for you. Better luck next time.
That was the scene in those final moments before it all came apart in the 12th 500 for Dale Earnhardt. This is the scene in victory lane right now for Derek Cope and Bob Whitcomb and company. For Ned Jarrett, Chris Economaki, Mike Joy, Dave Despain, and David Hobbs, I'm Ken Squire saying so long from Daytona Beach.
This CBS Sports Special, the Daytona 500, is sponsored by Budweiser. Beechwood aged for that clean, crisp taste. This Bud's for you. First Brands Corporation, maker of STP oil treatment and son of a gun protectant. And by Ford and your Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately?
The Daytona 500 has been a presentation of CBS Sports.